Let's get peppy! Welcome to PEP 250! It's the 250th! Oh my god, this is so exciting! Let's celebrate with a party where we just talk about American politics for 3 hours. This is the Plain Extra podcast. I am Chancellor Costello, a host of Plain America on ABC Australia. This is an official podcast of the ABC. Say hi to the Ombudsman for me. On PEP, we cover all the stuff that's too nerdy for TV. If you're listening, you can find us on YouTube at the PEP with Chaz and Dr. Dave channel, and you can find highlights there as well. And we're on Facebook at the Chaz from Planet America channel. We also find timestamps and show notes in our blurbs. And if you leave a comment under our current episode video, we are likely to see it. You can also tweet us or blue skies at PEPCHASDRDAVE. That's at PepChaz Dr. Dave. If you want to chat to some fellow Peppers, you can join our Discord server. It's on the screen right now or in the blurb of the podcast. But if you want to contact me or Lockie the Lucky privately, why not email us? That address is producer@pepthepodcast.com, and that address again is producer@pepthepodcast.com. And do not forget to subscribe for all that peppy goodness. It all helps. We're recording this one at 2 o'clock on the dot on Friday afternoon, so it's a quick turnaround tonight. Or daylight savings time messes with me now, Dave. That's 11 p.m. on the East Coast, I believe, at the moment in America on Thursday night. But for now, let's turn to the man who simply refuses to raise the stakes on inconsequential views. I speak, of course, of Dr. Pepper himself, Dr. David Smith. Happy 250.
Happy 250. And I am Dr. David Smith. I'm an associate professor at the US Studies Centre at the University of Sydney, but I do not speak for either of those institutions. When I'm on PEP, you are hearing from me and from me alone.
Dave, what are you grateful for?
Well, it's going to be a movie recommendation this week.
Sure, why
which
not?
you don't get very often from me. But
do we need a movie list as well?
No. No, you do not. But I saw this on Monday night with a couple of Peppers, whom I have known for a very long time. This movie is called Sirât. Sirat. It is in cinemas now.
Oh, wow.
And the plot of this movie, to the extent that such a thing exists, is there's a bunch of Spanish ravers in the Moroccan desert who their rave gets interrupted by the military, and we're kind of loosely informed it's because World War III has broken out. And so they drive deeper into the Moroccan desert looking for the next rave. That's the whole plot.
That's the plot.
Now, it's been likened to Mad Max. It's been likened to Wages of Fear. It's been likened to The Sorcerer, except it's ravers who are tripping the whole time. And look, you don't need to watch much of this movie to know these people are not actors.
This is sounding like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
It's crazier than Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. A lot of crazy things happen in this movie. Now, look, you might read some reviews online that say things like, there's not a lot of character development in this movie. Well, frankly, character development would have ruined this movie. These are ravers without very complicated motivations other than finding the next rave.
So is this real? This is a doco?
It's not a doco, but the people in it are very real. They're about as real as it gets.
Blurred lines. I like it.
Yes, highly, highly recommended. And with an absolutely pulsing rave soundtrack done by a German DJ called Kanding Rave.
Well, we should follow the rules of David and Margaret, and I should now hate on it. I hated it. No, I haven't watched it. I've never heard of it until you mentioned it. I'm sure it's wonderful. Thank you very much for that, grateful Dave. My grateful is for Hamilton Fox III.
Okay.
Hamilton Fox 3. Sounds like an awful animated movie. It's Hamilton Fox. No, look, honestly, it could have been any number of people. There's more than one person I'm grateful for here. Yeah. There are 5 or 6, but Hamilton Fox III has the funniest name.
Okay.
So that's why he's the person I'm naming. Let me go back.
Yes.
To tell you the story. In February last year, when he was interim US attorney for DC, Eagle Ed Martin Jr.
The Eagle's Nest.
I honestly could have talked over that, but no, I won't. That's my favourite sting. It's back. And yes, I am pretty much exclusively doing this, Grateful, just so I can play that sting. We had like 3 different correspondents saying, can you please do this as you're grateful so we can hear the sting? I'm obliging. But I am grateful for this as well. Eagle Ed Martin Jr. last year, February, he sent a letter to William Trina, the Dean of the Georgetown University Law Centre.
Okay.
And what this letter said was he asked if Georgetown was using DEI practices. That's diversity, equity, and
inclusion.
Inclusion, thank you. And he said if they were using DEI practices, they should stop. And if they didn't stop, he would punish the law school by not hiring any of their students and graduates at the
to the Eagle's Nest.
To the Eagle's Nest, indeed. So they filed the complaint because you know what? They're law teachers, so they know the law. The complaint said, acting in his official capacity and speaking on behalf of the government, he used coercion to punish or suppress a disfavoured viewpoint, the teaching and promotion of DEI. Spot on. You're right.
Yes.
That is, under the First Amendment, they're supposed to be protected. The government isn't meant to be punishing you for promoting or teaching your particular viewpoint. Now, retired Judge Philip Argento, back in March, first heard the complaint. He asked Martin for his response to the complaint, went through the proper process, and Martin did not respond. What he did instead was he requested a meeting with the chief judge, went over the complainant's head, and the senior judges of the DC Court of Appeals to try and lean on them.
Yep.
The chief judge said, no, I'm not going to meet with you. This would be improper. You should go through the proper process. I could have been grateful for that judge.
Yes.
Had their name been Hamilton the Fox, the Fox the Third. But anyway, Martin chose to just ignore the complaint. The disciplinary board then wrote to Martin asking, why have you not responded to this complaint?
Yes.
And Martin said, well, I've spoken to the chief judge about it. We've dealt with it. It's fine. The disciplinary board did not accept that. I could be grateful for them.
Yeah.
If their name was Hamilton Fox III. But to cut a long story short, the DC Disciplinary Council, whose name is Hamilton Fox III, is currently taking Eagle Ed Martin Jr. to the Board on Professional Responsibility for the DC Court of Appeals. Fox has said, acting in his official capacity and speaking on behalf of the government, he used coercion to punish or suppress a disfavoured viewpoint, the teaching and promotion of DEI. He demanded that Georgetown law relinquish its free speech and religious rights in order to continue to obtain a benefit employment opportunities for its students. Fair enough. Todd Blanche has replied, saying this is the Assistant Attorney General, Todd Blanche, has said, the DC Bar is such a blatantly Democrat-run political organisation. Thank God I'm not a member, and trust me, I never will be. You're right about that, Todd.
Yep. This, remember, is Trump's personal lawyer.
Yes. So Ed Martin is now up in front of this Board of Professional Responsibility. And if he is found guilty of ethical violations, which I think he might be, he could face sanctions or even, in fact, lose his law license.
Wow.
It's the first time a lawyer in the Trump administration has been in this situation for DEI purposes.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal because every Republican office holder has been pressuring people over DEI. Yep. The whole time they've been doing this, I've been saying,
yes,
this seems to be a breach of the First Amendment.
Yeah, it does.
But people don't follow up.
No.
These guys are following up. And if this leads to consequences, it could have a serious attack on the DEI push from the Trump administration. And Trump can't pardon his way out of any of these.
No, he can't.
Right? Now, the reason I'm so grateful about this is because as far as I'm concerned, this is exactly how it should be done all the time. No escalation, no fiery tweets, no turn up on MSNBC slapping them down. Just go through the process slowly and methodically. Don't be distracted. Doesn't matter if it takes 12 months. Don't be unfair. Give them their due. Give them exactly what they're owed. No more and no less. Make them live by the consequences. And if it's anything like I've seen on the Trump administration so far, there will be consequences almost every single time if you follow these steps.
Yep.
And I love it. So I'm grateful that at least these guys are doing it the right way.
I'm grateful to hear that, yes.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to playing that sting one more time when we hear the sanction for Eagle Ed Martin Jr. Now, correspondence there's a lot of. This is one of those episodes where it's hard to know how long we're going to go because we've got one big topic, obviously, in the war. I've got a few little topics, but yeah, we could go 2 hours. We could. This could be a 3.5 hour job. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the correspondence to the end. We'll see how much time we got left over. That will determine what correspondence I go through because there's plenty of good stuff. Okay? But there is one correspondence I do want to go through at the beginning because it's kind of content. And it's content I forgot to do last week. And I'm not going to lie. It was the content I most wanted to do last week. But I forgot because I write these notes ahead of time. As you guys are well aware, if you watch the podcast, you'd see that I'm reading my notes. Well, I'm usually doing it with someone who hasn't written a stack of notes. And so I adjust my notes to suit them.
Yes.
Because, I've got my preparation.
Very accommodating. I'm very grateful.
Thank you very
One day
much.
I'll do a grateful on it.
But the point is it means I jump around. And sometimes I forget what I've jumped past.
Yep.
And this is one of those instances where I was jumping with Elle and I forgot to jump back. And honestly, this is literally this story I want to tell you.
Okay.
Was the reason I want to talk about Christy Noem. So let's do it.
Yes.
This is correspondence from Thomas. I have one more story that really pissed me off, he says. Last summer, I heard her tell a story about how she'd just got off a plane full of deportees, and she said they had to abort the flight because one of the deportees was a cannibal, and he started to eat himself, and they couldn't stop him. I may be getting the details wrong, but it was something like that. Now, I knew instantly that was BS because it's just ridiculous and doesn't make any sense. We've all seen how they're shackled at hands, feet, around the waist. It'd be literally impossible, apart from the fact it just doesn't make sense to eat yourself. But she was serious about it. And I know some of the reactions. People actually believed her. I read comments like, these people are animals. They need to get out of the country and so on. That's when I realized when Trump was talking about Hannibal Lecter, he was actually sending out the message that it wasn't just some weird train of thought. The message was that these foreigners are sick and they'll eat you if you don't let me kick them out. Now, that was an interesting correspondence. And I thought I played the cable. No, I didn't. So let's play my Christy Noem is dishonest section.
Okay.
Which starts with back in June last year. After all those migrants had been sent to El Salvador and the administration was just opening up Alligator Alcatraz. That's when this story occurred.
Okay,
I'm giving you the context so you can understand the clip when you see it.
Yep.
She turns up on Jesse Waters to push this talking point while talking about Alligator Alcatraz for some reason. But her point was, these migrants are the worst of the worst. This is the amazing moment.
You calling these guys bad hombres, they really are. I was talking to a U.S. Marshal just yesterday, and he was talking about the fact that they were deporting a plane load of illegals, and one of them was a cannibal. And he kind of said it offhanded, and I said to him, what do you mean it was a cannibal? And he said, well, we put him on the plane, put him in his seat, and he started to eat his own arms. He was such a deranged individual. This is the kind of people that President Trump is getting off of our streets, people who are murderers and rapists and are deranged individuals that we are working to get out of this country as fast as possible. So Alligator Alcatraz is the future.
Was this bad hombre like handcuffed to something and he was trying to chew his arm off so he could escape? Or was he just hungry?
You know, what bothered me the most was that this U.S. Marshal just said it like it was normal. These are the kind of people they have to work with every single day when they're deporting people out of this country. So they had him, put him on the plane and had him in shackles for the flight because he was such a dangerous individual. And when he got back to his seat and put another individual in the seat near, close to him, he said he literally was eating his own arms, that for him, he was, that is what he did. He called himself a cannibal, ate other people, and ate himself.
That clip is one for the time capsule for this administration.
That really is, yes.
Preserve that for future historians, folks. Right down to the overlay of alligators. While they're talking about Alligator Alcatraz.
That was very special.
Yeah. Now, it wasn't just Thomas. Everyone's immediately smelt a rat. Possibly a cannibal rat that ate itself. So they asked for details about this cannibal who ate their own arm.
Yes.
At the time, DHS and I just didn't reply. It just didn't say a thing, which is a bit of a sign. In the last few weeks, though, while DHS has been leaking like a sieve about Kristi Noem, some DHS officials started to go off the record about this one.
Okay.
That is completely made up, one senior federal law enforcement official
What a surprise.
That never happened. Another source said that officials went to ICE's Enforcement and Removal Operations Division to ask them about the incident. Quote, there was no information about it. It never took place. It's a lie. And the officials officials insisted the fake story didn't come from a marshal.
Right.
It came from Kristi Noem.
Ah.
Because they checked that as well. Was a marshal telling some tall tale? No. No.
He started eating his own arms. The thing is, like, you want a real bad hombre. That's someone who eats his own face.
That's true. That would be amazing.
I'm not even impressed.
I'd be
by
impressed,
this so-called cannibal.
But I'd be impressed by someone eating their own face.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm Shania Twain about the cannibal eating their own arm. I'm not impressed much at all. But the face, there is one other one I want to tell them, the Kristi Noem dishonest section. This one is actually before she was DHS secretary.
Right.
In her book, she wrote this. I had the chance to travel to many countries to meet with world leaders. Some who wanted our help, some who didn't. I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. I'd been a children's pastor after all. Dealing with foreign leaders takes resolve, preparation and determination, she said. Now, people, once again, immediately smelt that rat.
Yeah.
They said, why is the governor of South Dakota meeting Kim Jong-un? Why? So she was asked about that on, I think it was Face the Nation, and this is how it went.
Did you meet Kim Jong-un?
Well, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes and looked at this passage. And I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. As soon as it was brought to my attention, we went forward and have made some edits. So I'm glad that this book is being released in a couple of days and that those edits will be in place and that people will have the updated version.
So you did not meet with Kim Jong-un. That's what you're saying.
I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. I think I've talked extensively in this book about my time serving in Congress, my time as governor, before governor, some of the travels that I've had. I'm not going to talk about my specific meetings with world leaders. I'm just not going to do that. This anecdote shouldn't have been in the book, and as soon as it was brought to my attention, I made sure that was adjusted. So the book is not released until Tuesday, and so we're doing all that we can to make sure that those changes are made, and I'm going to continue to focus on what this book is and the blueprint that it lays out for the American citizen, on all of the things in the background and stories of my life, but also what I think that needs to be identified in politics and what's broken today. I talk about how broken the money game is, how broken it is that we've got consultants that are getting rich off of elected officials, and then how fake some elected politicians are.
That exchange around for 2 more minutes.
Yeah. So look, for all you budding authors out there who are wondering about Kristi Noem's writing process, well, there it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I do full credit to the journo just letting her rabbit on. Okay, because it was just so. I mean, how dumb do you need to be to think that is convincing to anyone?
Yeah.
And so I love that they just let her just go, because she was expecting to be interrupted at some point in time.
She was,
and they was like, "Nah, just keep on going, honey. I'll give you all the rope you need." It was so funny. Anyway, I'm glad I could play that. I can't believe I forgot to play it last week. And also, I want to go through an update quickly before we get to the war. This is something that we did talk about also with Elle, but I know you have things you want to say about it, and there is more news in the last few days as well. So
in the last 24 hours.
Oh, well, I'm not up to that. I'm 36 hours behind. So you have to tell us all about it. I'm talking, of course, about the SAVE Act, and in particular, the politics of the talking filibuster to try and force through the SAVE Act through the Senate.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this also links back to the last thing that I was talking about last week, which was the Texas primaries. So you'll remember from that it was very close between Ken Paxton and John Cornyn. It's going to a runoff. And the received wisdom is that whoever Trump endorses will win. But that perhaps without Trump's endorsement, John Cornyn could be in a lot of trouble because he is very unpopular within the Texas Republican Party. Yeah. And when we spoke about this last week, Trump was leaning towards Cornyn because of the fact that when Paxton was asked, will you drop out of the race if Trump endorses Cornyn? He said no. And Trump's like, oh, he shouldn't have said that. That makes me maybe think the other way.
And also because Cornyn's an easier contest for the Republicans.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
like he's much more likely to beat Tallarico than Paxton is.
Yes, like very likely, yes. Anyway, so Ken Paxton put his thinking hat on and came up with an ingenious way of at least stalling the endorsement from Trump. He said, I will drop out of this race if Republicans in the Senate get rid of the filibuster in order to pass the SAVE Act.
Which he knows they never will.
Yeah. But, of course, this is exactly what Trump wants to hear. And the fact that Ken Paxton is saying this, that immediately means Trump doesn't want Paxton out of the race. Doesn't necessarily want him to win, but he certainly wants him there needling Republicans about getting rid of the filibuster.
Yes.
So, Paxton quickly worked out how these shenanigans could work in his favour.
And so what did John Cornyn do?
John Cornyn, within the last 24 hours, has said that he now supports getting rid of the filibuster.
How about that?
My God. It's the most weaselly statement as well, because this guy is a long-time defender of the filibuster. This is one of the things that he is known for. So the statement that he came out with, saying, it's got nothing to do with these events of the last
just coincidence
of the last week. He's like, I watched in 2022 when Democrats seriously discussed getting rid of the filibuster.
Yes.
And they didn't. But he said, but that has done irreparable damage to the filibuster.
Oh.
And he said, even though the state of Texas on the whole has benefited from the filibuster, now that moderate Democrats have gone extinct, I don't see the future working in the same way. But you'll notice I'm not attempting a Texas accent here. So I don't see it working in the same way. So my thinking has evolved.
Oh.
Yes, and now I want to get rid of the filibuster.
Did he explain why it took him 4 years for his thinking to evolve?
He did not explain that.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But Ken Paxton certainly had some thoughts.
Oh, yeah, what was that?
He said, wow, he's become twice as conservative in the last 24 hours. This is an epic flip-flop. I'm glad I can have this effect. Or words to that effect.
Honestly, he's right.
He is right. Cornyn bravely responded with a folksy go, he's like the rooster who thinks that by crowing he makes the sun come up.
Leave it for John Candy, mate. Doesn't work for you.
Does not work for him, especially when it's channeled through my accent rather than his. But, of course, John Cornyn has no power to get rid of the filibuster either. John Thune is the pretty solid institutionalist immovable object here.
Well,
as far as the filibuster
but
goes.
Also, he doesn't have the numbers.
I know, he doesn't have the numbers.
Like it's not. Neither of them have the power.
No.
Murkowski has the power, and Collins has the power.
Yes, but Thune doesn't want to talk about it because first of all, I don't think he does want to get rid of the filibuster.
No, he doesn't. No.
And second, talking about it is a very counterproductive thing for him. So he's.
It just makes his Twitter feed even more swell.
But anyway, the numbers are not there to get rid of the filibuster, which is wise because John Thune has enough institutional memory to know that Republicans will not be the Senate majority forever. Neither will they be the Senate minority forever. This is why you have the filibuster.
Yeah, he actually made a statement about this as well, saying the votes are talking about the talking filibuster.
Yeah.
Which are just to be clear, because I don't think I was 100% clear on this when I talked about this with Elle.
Yep.
You got the idea of getting rid of the filibuster, which you only had 50 votes to do.
Yes.
Which is strange, I know, that you need 60 votes to beat the filibuster, but 50 votes to end the filibuster.
Yeah.
But you only need 50 votes to do it. So theoretically, if they had 50 votes to do so, they could, but they don't have 50 votes to do so.
No,
There's
they
like
don't.
at least 6 Republicans I can think of who would just flat out no.
Yes.
And there's probably more than that.
Yeah. I mean, they could probably get Fetterman.
Yeah, they could. Like Fetterman actually, I think he was one of the people wanting to stand up for the filibuster with the Democrats.
Oh.
Yeah, so this might be one thing they can't get Fetterman for. But anyway.
Nobody wants to see a talking filibuster featuring John Fetterman.
Anyway, the point is that they don't have the numbers to get rid of the filibuster, but the talking filibuster thing is different to that. The talking filibuster is not ending the filibuster. That's not about votes.
Yep.
The talking filibuster is about saying, okay, rather than Democrats saying, oh, we filibuster and you need 60 votes to beat it, saying to the Democrats, well, if you're going to filibuster means you are going to talk until you kill the bill.
Yes.
Talk.
Now,
And just make them actually do it.
Yes, and there are state legislatures that have this arrangement. Yeah. So Texas, quite famously, has this arrangement. And when you're filibustering, you are not allowed to have a break. You are not allowed to go to the bathroom, and you're not allowed to sit down. So I think it was in 2014, Wendy Davis had this, I can't remember how many hours, it was 19-hour filibuster or something, to stop an abortion bill. Yes, so there are states that have this, and it gets thrown around quite a lot, this idea of bringing it back.
And you could do it in the Senate, in the federal Senate. You absolutely could do it. There's no reason why you couldn't.
That's what they used to have.
Totally.
The Dixiecrats used to read out recipes and from the phone book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they didn't change any rules to stop it. They just all agreed, let's stop wasting. It's pointless. Let's just stop wasting
Listening to
time.
Stromthemond read the phone book is pointless.
Yeah, and so they just stopped doing it. And now the Republicans are saying, well, let's bring it back. And like I said last week, just for those who didn't hear, I'll be very, very quick. The reason why John Thune doesn't want to do that is because he knows that the Republicans will lose if they do that.
Yes.
Because it's much, 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 much easier for the Democrats to for each Democrat to take half an hour at a time talking, while the Republicans have to sit there and listen to them.
Yep.
They need to have at least 48 Republicans sitting there at all times listening to them. Because if not, the 47 Democrats can turn up at any moment and take a vote.
Yes.
At 3 a.m., whatever. They can just, at any moment, they could all just, like a flash mob, just come in there, take a vote. And if you don't have a majority sitting there waiting for it, you'll lose the vote.
Yeah.
And so Republicans need to sit there day and night, 24 hours a day. 47 of them need to sit there. There's 47 Democrats.
Yeah.
47 of them need to sit there just to make sure that they can defeat a vote. And that's not going to be fun for them.
No.
And the Democrats can, if the Republicans take a break, and remember, there's at least 6 150-year-olds in the Republican caucus.
Yep.
If any of them take a break or die during this process, then the Democrats can make them vote on stuff they really don't want to vote for.
That's right.
And they can really screw with them, and they can kill the bill at any point in time as well. So John Thune knows that is, and if they have superhuman abilities, and they just do it for months, then they're not going to do anything else in the Senate.
Right.
And, which is ironically what Trump, there's another announcement. The reason I brought that was just to set up. Trump actually announced that he's going on strike. He put out a tweet that said, great job by hard-working Scott Presler on Fox and Friends talking about using the filibuster or talking filibuster in order to pass the Save America Act, an 88% issue with all voters. It must be done immediately. It supersedes everything else. Must go to the front of the line. I, as president, will not sign other bills until this is passed, and not the watered-down version. Go for the gold. Must show voter ID and proof of citizenship. No mail-in ballots except for military illness, disability, travel, no men and women's sports, no transgender mutilization for children. You might go, huh? What is he talking about? I'll come back to that in a second. Do not fail. President Donald J. Trump. Okay. Do that. Have your strike. Don't sign any bills.
Yep.
That can be your one-man talking filibuster. You know what that means? No funding for the war.
Yes.
No funding for the DHS. Is that what you want? Because you literally can't do anything else until the filibuster is over. So
It says great. He's applying the lessons he hasn't learnt from the Iran war to domestic politics.
Yes, that's right. I will bet any amount of money to any pepper who wants to take me on.
Whoa.
I'll honour this. Any amount of money that Trump will not stand by that filibuster promise. Any amount of money. Anyway, I will give you my house. Come on, who wants to bet their house that Trump is not going to go through with that? He will not go through with that.
I can see this ending in a GoFundMe page.
Anyway, that bit in the middle where you go, huh, what was that? Hang on, what are we talking about trans people all of a sudden?
Yeah.
That's another thing. Donald Trump just out of nowhere just decided a couple of days ago that the Save America Act, which is meant to be about voter ID, is now about trans stuff. He tweeted out, the Save America Act, 1, all voters must show voter ID. 2, all voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. 3, no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military or travel. 4, no men and women's sports. 5, no transgender mutilation surgery for children.
This is because he is absolutely convinced that this is the greatest election-winning issue ever.
He thinks it helps. He thinks bashing trans people helps.
He's been talking about this for, he always brings this up as this is the issue that we need to focus on. I think it's been pointed out before, there have been more bills about this subject in US states than there are known trans people competing in high-level women's sport.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That rings true to me. It really does. The thing is that even if he's right, that a majority of Americans support no men and no transgender women in cisgender women's sports.
Yes.
I'll tell you what more Americans think. Yeah. More Americans think that Trump's priorities are wrong.
Yes.
That's what they think. They think he's doing everything but worrying about prices. That's what they think.
Yes.
They think, I've seen so many polls. We're talking in the 70s. So many polls where people are asked, are his priorities where they should be? And they say no. And what should his priorities be? Affordability. Every single time. And now we're in the middle of a war of choice. And he's talking about men and women's sports, which hasn't even been in the news for about 4 years, and he's calling it the number one priority. What is number one priority? You have so many priorities there that they can't all be number one, mate. This is a bad tactic.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what it is. I want to say one other thing about Congress before we move to the war. The Republicans no longer have the majority in the House.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they found. I've been flagging this is getting closer and closer.
For
like 6 months.
Yeah, you have been. I didn't realise that the threshold had been crossed.
It's crossed. Kevin Kiley.
Oh yes, he's gone independent.
He's gone independent. So now there are 217 Republicans out of 435.
Wow.
Now there's absent seats and they're not going to be losing any votes anytime soon. Right?
No.
But they now are below a majority. And also, he's going to caucus with the Republicans for sure.
Of course.
But and look, that's not the end of the story.
No.
There are more people who are dropping out.
Yeah.
There are going to be more dropouts. They're going to end up on 215, I reckon. And at that point in time, they might lose the voting majority.
That would be something.
But anyway, we'll just keep following it.
Yeah.
It's getting, it's an interesting development. Let's talk about the war, Dave.
Okay.
I'm just going to do the latest death numbers.
Yes.
And then you can start off.
Yeah.
The way we got this, I've got an area I want to talk about. I'm sure you have areas you want to talk about.
Yep.
We can just swap. We can just take turns. Okay.
Yes.
So just the latest numbers. These are 24 hours old. I got them from Al Jazeera. They got an excellent live tracking graphic for this kind of thing, where they go country by country. It's not just about just American soldiers. 1,348 people killed in Iran so far, 17,000 injured.
Yep.
687 people killed in Lebanon. You don't hear about that very often.
No.
1,500 injured. Israel are doing plenty of fighting over in Lebanon, which isn't getting much attention. 15 killed in Israel, 2,000 injured. 26 killed in Iraq. Who would have thought there'd be more people killed in Iraq than Israel? 26 people killed in Iraq, 6 killed in UAE, 6 killed in Kuwait, 2 in Saudi Arabia, 2 in Bahrain, 1 killed in Oman, and there's 7 US military killed, with 1 more dying from non-military reasons. That's the death count so far. So that's where we're at. What well, there's one more thing I want to show you as well before we get to go to you there. Mm-hmm. I want to show you my favourite hypocrisy clips of the week.
Oh,
Every time we talk about the war, I want to start with my favourite hypocrisy clips of the week because there's so many of them.
Okay.
And they just keep on coming out.
Okay, yes.
What I'm referring to, of course, is the fact that Trump spent almost the entire 2024 election campaign as the president of peace.
Yes.
Okay, and so there are so many clips that have been resurfaced. First of all, let's start with J.D. Vance, who had a lot to say about Trump not starting wars back in 2024.
But when people like Kamala Harris send our sons and daughters, our young people, to fight in stupid wars, it is the young generation that carries the burden of that. We're going to stop sending our young people to faraway lands. We are not the policemen of the world.
We are not the policemen
policemen of the world.
And hasn't J.D. Vance disappeared in the last 2 weeks? Do we need to put his face on a milk carton? Where is he gone? Maybe he's too busy prosecuting the war on fraud. Maybe that's what's going on. Sorry, buddy. Ain't going to work. This is your war too, and you'll be hearing all about it in a couple of years' time. But the next clip is the very greatest, Dave.
Okay.
I cannot see this one getting topped anytime soon. This is Trump himself back in 2024. I love this.
Never seen anything like it. If Kamala wins, only death and destruction await because she is the candidate of endless wars. I am the candidate of peace. I am peace. People don't believe that.
I am peace. He is the personification of peace, Dave.
He is.
He
should do what Ron Artest, the basketballer, did and change his name to Meta World Peace.
He should. I tell you what, Donald. If you are indeed peace, maybe you should give the USS Gerald Ford a break, who have been fighting wars non-stop for about 6 months.
The latest thing on the USS Gerald Ford is there was a laundry fire today.
Those poor guys, all they're doing.
2 people were injured in a laundry fire.
Like, I believe it's been out for about twice as long as a ship is meant to go out, just because there's so many wars to be fought with Trump. But anyway, poor guys. Okay, talk to me about your first section you want to talk about with the war.
Okay. So I've also got a few more numbers to give.
No, go for it, yeah.
Up to 200,000 people displaced in Lebanon.
Yep.
It's hard to get exact numbers on that at the moment, but up to 200,000.
Yeah.
16 vessels attacked in the Persian Gulf or Gulf of Arabia, depending on your preferred nomenclature.
You're talking the guys laying down mines, the little small ships? Or
No.
No, we'll get to them.
Talking about merchant vessels.
Oh, wow. Okay, because I'm 36 hours behind. I knew there were 3.
There have
16.
been a total of 16. I mean, some of them didn't make news at the time, but are now now coming back. And it's not just in the Straits of Hormuz. It's like off the coast of Iraq, near the coast of Kuwait. It's clearly not a very safe place to be a ship at the moment.
I would have thought they just need 1, but apparently 16.
Yes.
I'm sure the message has gotten out. They would have stopped sailing by this point in time, I imagine.
There's not a lot of sailing going on.
Yeah,
we'll come back to that.
Okay, yes, you will.
400 million barrels of oil to be released from the world's oil reserves. Yep. This was a decision taken collectively by 32 countries.
Yep.
That will include 172 million barrels released by the US. Now, that 400 million...
That's from the Strategic Reserve?
That's from the Strategic Reserve.
Okay, that's getting low.
It is getting low. I mean, that 400 million barrels, that collectively represents 2 things. Mm-hmm. That's a quarter of the whole world's strategic reserve, and that is 4 days of oil supply.
Yeah.
That is about 20 days of the oil supply that is currently blocked in the Straits of Hormuz.
Okay.
Now,
well, look, that's not nothing.
Well, when you think about those numbers, that would be why, when that announcement was made, the oil price actually shot up rather than going down.
Okay.
Because once people started to do the maths on, okay, so what can they actually do at this point and how many times can they do it and how desperate do they have to be to take this measure, people could see the oil supply is a real problem.
3 weeks is a long time for Trump to cut and run.
Yeah.
I don't know what the betting is at the moment, over at Polymarket.
Yeah.
But I would have thought, that many people would be betting that within 3 weeks, Trump would just go, yeah, declared victory, we're out of here.
Well, yes, okay. We're going to talk about that
We
a
will as
lot
well.
today.
I'll say one thing about the strategic reserve, though,
Yes.
just quickly before we move on.
Yep.
Something which doesn't get mentioned is that people see the percentage of the strategic reserve that's left, and they think, oh, that's how much oil is left. That's not true.
No, it's not.
Because the lower you go, the lower the quality of oil.
Yep.
Like it's like the oil on the bottom, which has been rubbing up against the bottom and dirt and all this kind of stuff. Like it's actually not great quality oil.
Yep.
And so you don't want to go. I don't remember the exact percentage. I think it was about a quarter or 20%.
Yeah.
You don't want to go much lower than that. So they are getting real close to the end of the strategic reserve.
They really are, which is why when people saw they were doing that, they're like, yeah, the price of oil is not going down anytime soon. Now, on the price of oil, so the day after we recorded our last PEP, oil got up to $104 a barrel. Then the next day, it got up to $120 a barrel. Now, that is a really huge spike. Like it's back above 100 now, but it's not there at the moment.
Let's just show a graphic on that.
Yeah. So there was one day of trading where it got to $120.
Yeah.
That prompted Trump to tell CBS News that the war is very complete.
Yes.
And almost over.
Yeah.
And that calmed the markets a lot. That was also the day that the G7 leaders first started talking about tapping their oil reserves, although not actually taking the action, which turned out to be a very dramatic one. So those two things together, they just calmed the market down a bit. Oil went back to just below $80, still a lot higher than it had been a week earlier. But then a few hours later at the Republican retreat at Doral, Trump said, we're winning, but we haven't won enough. And he started to talk about that there's going to be a lot more fighting and that the US will be in there for as long as it takes. So he's been trying to do a couple of things, neither of them successfully. On the one hand, he keeps trying to signal that the war is almost over. Nearly every day, he gives some signal that the war is almost over. But of course, by saying that, there's a risk that he is emboldening the Iranians, who will take that as a sign that he wants to end the war quickly.
Yes.
And who, as a result, are going to ramp up their own efforts to make sure that it ends on the most favourable terms to them. So when that starts to happen, and I mean, the Iranians are masters of taunting. Like, for a country that restricts the internet as much as they do, they've got an uncannily good handle on American online sensibilities, right? And I thought the first example of this I saw was when Trump was saying that he should have some role in selecting Iran's next leaders. And they said something like, oh, no, thanks, we don't need Jeffrey Epstein's friends picking our leaders. But I mean, the other thing that they've done is they constantly refer to it as Operation Epic Mistake.
Sure.
Which, this is yet another thing, like they should have seen it coming. When you pick a dumb name like Operation Epic Fury, someone's going to turn it into a funny name. But anyway, so you go to this sort of day-to-day cycle where Trump starts the day by telling the media, oh, yeah, the war's almost over. You know, the oil price blips are going to be very temporary. And then Iran taunts him about, Operation Epic Mistake. No, it's not going to finish when you say it finishes. It's going to finish when we say it finishes. And then by the end of the day, he is talking in maximalist terms again.
But also, he makes his administration look like they have no idea what they're doing. Because while he's saying the war's about to end, we have at the same time, literally at the same time, the Department of Defense is tweeting out, we've only just begun to fight.
Only just begun to fight.
And this is all the same day as his very complete victory.
Yes.
Pete Hegseth was saying this.
What I want your viewers to understand is this is only just the beginning.
And then the journalist asked Trump, well, how can both be true at the same time? And then he just struggles.
Mr. President, you've said the war is, quote, very complete, but your defense secretary says this is just the beginning. So which is it, and how long should Americans be prepared
Well, I think
for
you could
this war
say
to
it
last
both.
for?
It's the beginning. It's the beginning of building a new country, but they have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft equipment. It's all been blown up. They have no radar. They have no telecommunications. and they have no leadership. It's all gone. So, you could look at that statement. We could call it a tremendous success right now as we leave here. I could call it, or we could go further, and we're going to go further.
So Marco Rubio tried to square the circle a little bit by coming out and completely rejigging the goals of this war, so this operation, so Trump could declare mission accomplished if he wanted to.
Yes.
The goals of this mission are clear, and it's important to continue to remind the American people of why it is that the greatest military in the history of the world is engaged in this operation. It is to destroy the ability of this regime to launch missiles, both by destroying their missiles and their launchers, destroy the factories that make these missiles, and destroy their navy.
Okay, so the goal is exactly what they've done, and it doesn't involve regime change, and it doesn't involve stopping the nuclear threat, which are the two things that Trump said it was about when they went in the beginning. So it makes him look like an idiot. This is not working.
This is not working. I love how every time Marco Rubio says that, he tries to put it as if like, oh, we've said this so many times what the aims are, but you're just not listening, so I want you to report it correctly this time. And then, of course, Trump goes and says something completely different. Yes. Yeah. So he is trying to send one message to the American media and another message to the Iranians at the same time, as if people can't hear both.
Yes.
It is not working.
No, it is not. It's not working. Okay. Well, I want to start with.
Yes.
I want to start with hubris.
Okay.
Because there is a lot of it.
There is a lot
at the moment. Now, there have been some extraordinary displays of hubris. You can't go past the club leader for hubris, and that is, of course, the positively vampiric Lindsey Graham. Back at uni. Do you ever do protests at uni, Dave?
Yeah, I was involved in some protests.
Okay, I was never involved in protests, but I used to watch the protests and I used to laugh.
Yeah.
I've laughed at you. I used to laugh at the banners that they held.
Oh, yeah.
There's some real D-grade cartoons, right? Like cartoons where they needed to have name tags of the guys who they drew on the banner. Otherwise, you have no idea who that was meant to be a banner of, right? But whether it was John Howard or George W. Bush at the time or Tony Blair or whatever, it didn't matter who it was. They all looked exactly the same with all name tags. But the important thing is these stick figures with name tags, every single one of them had blood coming out of their mouths.
Yes.
Every single one of them. They loved the blood. I loved watching the blood as well. I found it hilarious. But in Lindsey Graham's case, this might possibly be an accurate portrait of the man.
I was wondering where this was going.
Lindsey Graham, it'd probably take as a compliment if you said that he loves blood. Look how giddy he was with excitement during this interview at the prospect of more killing.
You just wait to see what comes in the next 2 weeks.
The next 2 weeks meaning what?
We're going to blow the hell out of these people. This regime is in a death row now. It is going to be on its knees. It's going to fall. And when it falls, we're going to have peace like no other time. We're going to have prosperity unlike anyone could ever imagine.
Oh, my God. He's already divvying up the money. The money that's going to result from this massive victory and all the deaths. Like the money from Iran's oil. He's already breaking it up.
Venezuela and Iran have 31% of the world's oil reserves. We're going to have a partnership with 31% of the known reserves. This is China's nightmare. This is a good investment, and we should applaud our men and women in the military who are doing something I've never seen done before, decimating a brutal enemy in 9 days.
Really great points all around, Senator. I don't know where to start.
Great pushback there from Maria Bartiromo, I'm going to say. To be fair to her, she did ask some decent questions in the interview at times. Yes. But that was a funny reaction, nevertheless. Amazingly, though, Graham's main complaint is that this war isn't big enough.
Oh.
That's the problem. That's the problem. It's just not big enough war. He wants to get more of the Middle East fighting each other.
Now, to our Arab friends, you're being hit too. Has any Arab country struck Iran? Now, if you want a treaty with the United States, you need to get in this fight. Now, America's not going to the Mideast just to fight alone. So I'm urging our Arab allies to fight back. You're being hit too.
Are you telling us you want the United Arab Emirates and the Saudis to lash out and strike Iran right now?
I want them to get in the fight. We sell them weapons. Iran is striking their country. They have good capability.
Look, it's true that the United States has sold vast quantities of weapons to Saudi Arabia.
That is true.
In particular.
Lindsey Graham would know.
Yes.
Yes.
And, so it's a reasonable question to ask. Like, Saudi Arabia has so much weaponry.
Yeah.
Like, it has spent so much on American weapons.
Yes.
They're getting hit. Like, why aren't they getting in this fight?
Well, look, you and Lindsay can get together.
No.
You can campaign if you want.
I've heard an answer to this.
I reckon America and Israel are taking care of the bombing enough at this point in time.
Another answer I've heard, it comes from a Pepper's spouse.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm not going to name the Pepper or the spouse because I didn't discuss with them, whether I would say this on air. But I'm just saying it now because Lindsay's brought this up.
Sure.
Okay. And this Pepper's spouse's answer is that basically the Saudi Air Force is made up of royal fail sons.
Okay.
And so they get some training from other air forces, and the trainers come away basically horrified by the absolute incompetence of these people who are only there because of their high status within the Saudi hierarchy.
But also, a certain proportion of that spending, I imagine a lot of a proportion, is on defensive weaponry.
That's true.
Missile defense. That's very expensive.
That is very expensive, yeah. But anyway, so maybe they don't want the fail-son Air Force
maybe they don't
involved in the fight.
But Graham certainly does. Lindsey Graham does.
Yes.
In fact, he, in a different interview a little later, tried to commit America to a future war on Saudi Arabia's behalf as well.
Oh, dear.
He wants more wars.
But here's what I want to say to Saudi Arabia tonight. I'm willing to do a mutual defense agreement with your country to give you protection in perpetuity. Under the agreement I've been pushing, and I hope we can continue to talk about, if you're attacked by Iran, we would go to war for you.
Just one war at a time, Lindsay. Just honestly. Create a queue, please. But he's not doing one war at a time because in the same interview with Maria Bartiromo,
yes,
the same interview, he started hawking a war against Cuba.
I'm in Miami. You see this hat? Free Cuba. Stay tuned. Yep. The liberation of Cuba is upon us. It's just a matter of time now.
Dude, you're trying to start 3 wars at the same time. By the way, the reason I have this video is because Lindsey Graham put it online. Lindsey Graham is proud of this video. Do you reckon that's enough war for Graham?
No.
Those 3 wars? No. According to the Wall Street Journal, Graham is also simultaneously pushing for America to fight Lebanon as well. Quote, when Trump called Graham this week to praise his television appearances, to praise those appearances, Graham saw an opportunity. The senator said he pitched Trump. The senator said, this is Lindsey Graham telling them, he's proud of it. The senator said he pitched Trump on bombing Iranian and Hezbollah elements in Lebanon. Operation Semper Fi, he called it, in honor of the 1983 bombing of the U.S. Marine Corps barracks in Beirut that killed 241 American personnel, arguing that Trump could go even further than former President Ronald Reagan. You know when you hear about Putin rabbiting on about shit that happened in the Middle Ages.
Yes.
Going, Solomon, like Vladimir the Wise and Vladimir the Redbeard, and he's talking all these.
Someone please create Wikipedia pages for these historical characters Chaz has just made up.
He's going about all these people we've never heard of from 1,000 years ago as reasons why Russia should fight Ukraine now. Like Lindsey Graham is the American version of that. He's just keeping a ledger of every single wrong against America in history, and he wants to fight a war to avenge every single one of them. So yes, he is a little bit hubristic, Dave.
He is quite hubristic.
And he's also tripping balls. What is this?
Saudi Arabia, you decide now. UAE, decide now. Qatar, decide now. Because I'm a little sick and tired of the constant threading of needles. They wanted the Iranians stopped as much as the Israelis did,
Absolutely.
Truth be told.
God bless Israel.
All right.
We should move all our stuff to Israel. Thank you.
Senator Graham, thank you.
What? God bless Israel. We should move all our stuff to Israel. You should, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Move there now.
I think that might have been a deleted scene from that movie I was talking about.
Could well be. To think there was a time when Trump was totally awake to what Lindsey Graham was about. Do you remember?
Now, Lindsey Graham would like to stay in the Middle East for the next 1,000 years with thousands of soldiers and fighting other people's wars. I want to get out of the Middle East.
We have that Trump back. Now, that is just the first part of Hubris. I've got more, but
Good.
do you want me to keep on going? Or
You keep going.
I'll keep on going. Okay. Trump, sadly, has been listening to Lindsey Graham going about Cuba a little bit too much and thinking this sounds like a great idea.
And while you spoke at length with him about what's going on in Iran, Dana, he also told you he's got his eye on Cuba. Cuba. Explain.
He brought up Cuba unsolicited, Wolf. He said Cuba's going to fall pretty soon, by the way. Cuba is going to fall too. They want to make a deal so badly. They want to make a deal, and so I'm going to put Marco, meaning Rubio, over there, and we'll see how that works out. We're pretty focused on this one right now, and that part he was talking about Iran. We've got plenty of time, but Cuba's ready after 50 years.
Interesting.
They were talking about Iran, and he brought up Cuba unsolicited to say that he'd be going in there soon. And then over the next few days after that, he kept bringing it up.
We're also looking forward to the great change that will soon be coming to Cuba. Cuba's at the end of the line. They're very much at the end of the line. They have no money. They have no oil. They have a bad philosophy. They have a bad regime that's been bad for a long time. Cuba's in its last moments of life, as it was. It'll have a great new life, but it's in its last moments of life the way it is. And but our focus right now is on Iran, and we'll do that. I would say, what will you do? Take about 2 days off, Marco? No, he won't. Maybe an hour. He'll take 1 hour off, and then he'll finish up a deal on Cuba. That'll be an easy one.
That will be an easy one, he says.
Gotta say, when you are rambling like that, I don't know if you want to be putting thoughts in your audience's head about last days of life.
Yeah. It was pretty low energy.
It was very low energy.
That was at the Shield of Americas. There is I know I was doing the correspondence till later, but it's just relevant. Stacked Hat sends a correspondence saying, I don't have it in front of me, but saying to the effect of, a little known fact, it's only in America is the organization called the Shield of Americas, which is where he was talking. Yep. Everywhere else is called the Shield of Mexico's. So that was quite funny. So anyway, so that's more hubris.
Yes.
Like in the middle of a war,
Yep.
trying to spark the next war. But it gets worse because the White House, I don't know if you've seen these, Dave, because you're not very Twitter focused, so you might not have seen this.
No.
But there's not 1 or 2 videos now. This is like 10. The White House is determined to portray themselves as the bad guys in this war.
Yeah.
And also because they're deeply unserious people. They are literally putting out hype videos of them blowing shit up during a war, interspersed with other footage, right? Because they think it's cool.
Yeah.
I'll play one as an example.
Yeah.
For those who are listening, in between each movie quote you're about to hear, we are seeing actual snuff footage of stuff being blown up.
Yes.
In this war.
Mavericks inbound.
You can't conceive of what I'm capable of!
Finishing this fight.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
I am the danger.
Time to find out.
Maximum effort.
Here it comes. Now end this. Flawless victory.
Unless they're planning to lower the voting age to 12, I don't see how this is helping them politically. Because honestly, I think they've lost the 14-year-olds with that.
Yeah, they're probably a bit too mature, the 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
Look, I understand. I can see the logic, if there is any, other than just these people are massive losers who were made fun of at school. And now, but just think about the kind of people who are working in the Trump White House when they're 21 or 22. Think about what they're like at school, right?
Yeah.
They got beaten up. They did not get any love. And then unless it's just those people venting, if there's any strategy at all, the strategy would be presumably the young people don't like this war at all. Like the Quinnipiac poll I saw for the second week of the war had 21% approval amongst 18 to 34s, right? And so they're thinking, oh yeah, let's get young people doing young people stuff. But just like if you don't like this war and you think it's unnecessary and you think it's a waste of life and all the rest of it, do you think that's going to win you over?
A video that is insulting your intelligence as well.
Yeah, it's it just seems pretty bad stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a whole strategy.
Yes.
There's one where they're interspersing. Oh, by the way, the majority of people that you saw there from the movies are bad guys.
Yes.
Like, what are they doing? Like, they're trying to be bad guys.
And I would say the majority of them are also serving up copyright notices to the White House as we speak.
With scowls because they're bad guys. There are videos where they're interspersing kills with footballers getting tackled. One where there's interspersing kills with baseballs hitting home runs. One's where they're interspersing kills with moments from Grand Theft Auto. This one here, they're interspersing kills with a scene from SpongeBob SquarePants for some reason.
You want to see me do it again? You want to see me do it again? You want to see me do it again?
Those are 3 different explosions, by the way, if you're listening. Why do they want to be the bad guys, Dave?
Well, this is because this is the only way that they can sell this war. As has been very widely pointed out by everybody, including us, they did not come into this war with clearly stated objectives. The aims of the war vary depending on who's speaking, who they're speaking to, and what time of the day they're speaking at, whether it's before or after the markets have closed. Now, there's a very important piece by a political scientist called Bruce Gentleson called The Pretty Prudent Public, who said public opinion of war in the United States is not just shaped by how the war is going. Okay, that was the traditional view, was that public opinion will basically vary according to how well the United States is doing in the war. So no. It also depends on what people's understanding of the objectives of the war are. People are far more likely in the US to support wars which they believe are about restraining an aggressive power than they are to support wars that are about bringing political change to another country. They're also...
What's going on here then?
They're also not that hot on humanitarian intervention, right? Now, so what we see is, to the extent that any objective has actually been offered, and I'm talking about something that sounds real coming from the top, it's been regime change. It's we want to change the leadership of Iran. Trump has said we want unconditional surrender. Now, of course, that gets changed. What that means gets changed all the time. Caroline Leavitt said, well, what unconditional surrender means is when President Trump determines there is no longer a threat posed by Iran, they don't have to say unconditional surrender. We can say that it's unconditional surrender. Right? So trying to determine the objectives of this war are a mess, but to the extent that there is one, it's getting rid of the regime. Now, they cannot say at all that they are actually getting rid of the regime. Like, they're not even trying anymore to say that they are succeeding in getting rid of the regime. In the first few days, there was a lot of we've killed the top leader, we've killed 48 leaders. But now that they've appointed the son of the previously killed leader, there's really no way they can say they're achieving the objective of regime change. So what have they got left to actually sell this war on? They can't say there were all of these dangerous nuclear facilities that have now been obliterated, because that's what they already did last time around.
And they appear to have done none of that during this war.
They appear to have done absolutely, none of that. All the stuff that Rubio is talking about in terms of destroying ballistic missiles and destroying ballistic missile launches.
And destroying the Navy. Like anyone cares about the Iranian Navy.
Yeah. So they keep hitting targets, but they don't ever seem to reach a point where there are no more targets left to hit.
No.
So all they can do is keep telling us about the stuff that they're blowing up and keep trying to make it sound as cool as possible.
I see.
This is what they're doing. This is why Pete Hegseth, every time he does a press conference or is interviewed, is just gloating about the death and destruction and fear being inflicted on Iran.
Should we see an example?
Let's see an example.
Because he's next on the hubris list.
Yes.
Death and destruction from the sky all day long. We're playing for keeps. Our warfighters have maximum authorities granted personally by the president and yours truly. Our rules of engagement are bold, precise, and designed to unleash American power, not shackle it. This was never meant to be a fair fight, and it is not a fair fight. We are punching them while they're down, which is exactly how it should be.
He sounds like Palpatine delivering a PowerPoint slide.
Now, again, think who is actually impressed by that? Okay, like I'm sure some people are, but how is killing Iranians actually helping any American?
I don't know.
How is it improving the life of any American? People can see all the ways in which it is not, because the oil price is skyrocketing.
Yeah.
But this trying to sell it in terms of we are just killing so many people, we are blowing so much stuff up. People know this is not actually achieving the objectives, which is getting rid of the regime. They're killing a lot of people. They're bombing rubble that they've already bombed.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing things that are making people ashamed to be American, like blowing up a girls' school and killing more than 100 children.
We'll get to that one.
But they are not achieving any of the actual objectives. And those objectives are not something that Americans like in the first place. It's bringing political change to another country. So this is all that they have to sell is just we're killing. And like from Hegseth's point of view, people are supposed to go, yeah, we're really happy that Iranians are dying. Even though, for what?
And it then contrasts in such a horrible way with when the Americans die.
Yes.
And it's not just they've got a very different reaction to that. But on top of that, Hegseth just becomes this spoiled whinger.
Yes.
Like where when Americans get killed, he's not really crying about the Americans getting killed. He's crying about what it's done to him.
Yes.
How it's a bad news story for him.
Yes.
Like, have a look at this.
This is what the fake news misses. We've taken control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality.
What a sook. It's not about you, mate. It's not about you.
Oh, my God. That is assistant junior varsity football coach energy.
Talk about energy. I honestly, this is not a lie. It's not a word of a lie. One of them is actually a guest on this show.
Mm-hmm.
I had 4 different people
Yeah.
independently tell me in the last 2 weeks that Pete Hegseth has more small dick energy than anyone else they've seen before. Independently. These people do not caucus.
But I mean,
it's true.
Going back to the substance of what he's saying as opposed to the very distinctive style.
Yes.
So what are people supposed to be happy about? Like, we control Iran's airspace. We control their waterways. We control their fate. How does this help any American? What are Americans actually supposed to be happy about here unless they get some inherent pleasure from the pain and suffering being inflicted on Iran? Now, yes, there are some of those people out there, and there are some people, they're mostly about Trump's age now, who are still really angry at Iran over the hostage crisis and over the Hezbollah bombing of the barracks and possibly over the USS Cole as well, though that was done by Yemenis, but Trump says that Iran knew it and possibly had something to do with it. Now, unless you are capable of getting really angry about those things still, I mean, I don't doubt that Lindsey Graham is.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
Yeah. Or unless you've just been so kind of warped by the last 25 years that you think that basically killing any Middle Easterner is a good thing. But what are you getting out of this? Why are you supposed to be so happy about the things that Pete Hegseth is talking about?
That's a great way of putting it. My final bit of hubris is Trump with his shitty white cap. Now,
yes.
When he declared the war in the shitty white cap, there was certainly a lot of comments about it at the time. It was confusing why he did it, and then realised, of course, I should have known immediately that ugly white cap was on sale for $50 to $5 a pop as merchandise. He's kept on wearing it, and to the point where he's been wearing it at the dignified transfer of the war dead when they get off the plane. Yes. That is one of the most serious things a president does. And just remember, as you're watching, well, let's just see some of the footage of Trump there standing there with his white cap. That's him there. Now, it's just looking ridiculous, and it's I'm absolutely sure he thinks this is a great promotional opportunity as the coffin moves past him. Imagine you're the parents of one of those dead soldiers, and you saw that. Remember how angry Fox News got over Joe Biden looking at his watch during the dignified transfer, and Trump's just standing there with his trucker cap that you can buy for $55 a pop. While that's happening. And
look, he's managed to make JD Vance look dignified.
He has. Do you know what Fox News did with this?
They showed footage from another dignified transfer, possibly from Trump's first term.
No, it was from, I think it was, it might have been from the first term, actually.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't from that, yes.
No, it wasn't from this, for sure. But anyway, they acted like it was this week's footage. Have a look.
All right. Meanwhile, turning now to your headlines, President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Secretary Lady Usha Vance attending a dignified transfer to honor the final homecoming of the 6 U.S. service members killed in Kuwait. The solemn ritual returns the remains of troops killed in action. It is considered one of the most somber duties of a commander-in-chief.
Somber.
Yeah. Veterans groups got quite angry about that.
They did. In fact, Fox had to apologise.
Before we move on, we want to acknowledge a mistake made earlier on our program. During our coverage of yesterday's dignified transfer, we inadvertently aired video from an older dignified transfer instead of the ceremony that took place yesterday. We deeply regret the error and extend our respect and condolences to the service members' families.
Just to be clear, I like to be fair to people in this kind of situation.
Yeah.
That's not a mistake.
No, that is definitely not a mistake.
I work in a TV station. I know how they file this kind of stuff. The new footage is absolutely not mixed with ancient footage. It's in a different directory. It's in a different system. There's no way you would confuse footage from an hour ago or 2 hours ago with something that's a month old or 2 months old. There's just no way they are together and easily confused. No way. But the punchline is, guess what happened when the next dead soldier was flown into Washington?
What happened?
Trump didn't go.
Wow.
He sent J.D. Vance to do it for him. What a baby. He had some important work to do at the House Republicans' annual policy retreat in his golf club, apparently. So he couldn't be there. Hubris.
Absolute hubris.
So that's my hubris section. You can take away your next thing you want to talk about.
Okay. I want to continue to talk about the economic effects of all of this. So the latest from today is confirmation, apparently, that the Iranians are actually mining the Straits of Hormuz.
Mining. Oh, yeah, putting mines in. Yes.
Putting mines in. Yes. So this was talked about a few days ago, and this was what resulted in the United States attacking some mine-laying ships, but not ships that were actually in the process of laying mines. Ships that
just
were
small ships.
Yeah, ships that were moored. Yes, which led to a triumphant tweet from Trump about attacking the mine-laying ships. But in the midst of all that triumph, he was also saying that if they dare to attack if they dare to lay mines in the Straits of Hormuz, then we will hit them harder than they've ever been hit before. All the usual sort of Trump stuff.
I've got the tweet here.
Yes.
If Iran does anything that stops the flow of oil within the Strait of Hormuz, they will be hit by the United States of America 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far. Additionally, we will take out easily destroyable targets that will make it virtually impossible for Iran to ever be built back as a nation again. Death, fire, and fury will rain upon them. But I hope and pray that does not happen. He's getting Pete Hegseth to write his tweets for him.
Yeah, so Iran has apparently responded to that by putting mines in the Straits of Hormuz. I mean, Iran knows exactly what its leverage is at this point. And this is another really major long-term consequence of this war is prior to this, Iran didn't shut down the Straits of Hormuz, at least not recently. There have been times in the past where Iran has mined the Persian Gulf and the US Navy cleared the mine. So that, again, was back in the late 80s. But it hasn't done it recently. It threatened to do it last northern summer, but it did not do it. And there was a lot of speculation about, does Iran actually have the ability to shut down the Straits of Hormuz as they keep threatening? Because they did threaten it quite a lot, but didn't do it, which led some people to conclude maybe they're bluffing.
Yeah, they explicitly, in fact, Energy Secretary Chris Wright,
yes,
before the war, 2 weeks before the war, specifically said, well, look what happened summer last year. The oil prices blipped a little bit and that was it.
Yes.
Like, it just assumed that they wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Now, turns out Iran was just being restrained back then. Obviously, the process of bringing shipping to a halt in the Strait of Hormuz, it wasn't, it's not just something you can turn on and turn off, but Iran did manage to do it quite quickly. And in the first week of the war, a lot of Iran's attacks appeared to be quite scattergun. So they're attacking hotels and embassies, going after all of these different countries in the Gulf and all of these different countries in the Middle East. And that led to some speculation that, wow, their command and control structure has just been so destroyed. They're just firing at whatever they can hit. Okay, that turns out not to be the case. Okay, when they're firing at all of this different stuff, and I think, speaking of hubris, probably the most hubristic statement about this came from Nellie Bowles in the Free Press. It's Barry Weiss's wife, among other things, who in one of her "Thank God It's Friday" columns had this thing about Iran's firing missiles and deck chairs and and she listed all the countries and you know what, we're winning, really, really winning. Okay. It turns out that when Iran was firing all of that stuff at all of those other countries, what they were doing was making the decision to do any shipping in that area prohibitively expensive. And as I've seen this referred to as, this is now an underwriter's war, right? Yeah. All that Iran had to do was to influence the people who are making the insurance decisions.
Yeah, overnight, the war risk quadrupled.
Yes, yeah.
So just made it unaffordable.
Yeah. Very quickly, they basically made shipping through the Straits of Hormuz uninsurable. Yeah. So all of this stuff that just looked like crazy, random firing at crazy targets, hotels, embassies, infrastructure, ships, that all had a purpose. It may have been a very depleted and uncoordinated effort, but it achieved its purpose, which was making it uninsurable.
So just to be clear, when we say that, what we're saying is that you can get insurance, it just costs more than you would make out of the trip.
Yes.
And so no shipping company would ever do that.
No.
So if insurance costs so much that there's just no financial point to get insurance, then shipping companies aren't going to do it.
Yeah. Now, we talked last week about some of the measures that the US was talking about for dealing with this.
Yes.
One of which was offering insurance backed by the US government.
Yes.
that hasn't worked.
No, it's amazingly just saying you're going to do that in a tweet doesn't suddenly appear hundreds of billions of dollars from Congress.
Amazingly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and there's also escorting the ships.
Escorting the ships.
Which the Navy just said no.
Yes.
Because they said it's just too dangerous.
Who wants to volunteer for Operation Target Practice? Although, Energy Secretary Chris Wright, note, not part of the Navy, he actually tweeted that the Navy had escorted a ship, that the US Navy had escorted a ship through the Straits of Hormuz. That briefly brought the oil price down below $80.
Oh, wow.
Then he deleted it. And the government started saying, no, that never happened.
No. You know what he should do? During the holidays, I watched Dunkirk. He should like those amateur ship dudes in Dunkirk in their little boats. Chris Wright should hop into the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
And should escort some ships. That's what he should do.
Lots of people are still talking about this, but notably none of them from the Navy. Scott Bessent is talking about naval escorts. He was saying, this is something that we planned for way in advance. We're going to be doing this by the end of the month.
Get the Trump flotilla. You know, the guys with the flags.
Oh, yes.
There's so many of them, and no one wants to tangle with them.
No.
The Iranians wouldn't go near those guys.
No.
Get them in the Strait.
And, and Chris Wright has again said by the end of the month, the Navy is going to be escorting ships.
Well, maybe by the end of the month.
Well,
we'll see.
Matt, if this ever actually happens, you know what this is going to start looking like? A forever war. How long, how open-ended is this commitment to, escorting ships through the Straits of Hormuz, which, by the way, as we said last week, are mostly going to China?
Yeah, especially given, this is a little bit like the filibuster discussion we had before. To be escorting, you've got to put in a lot of money for every single ship.
Every single ship.
To screw it up, you need to hit one ship.
Yep.
You don't need to be there all the time firing every ship.
Yeah.
Just fire at one ship. And they need to. So it's an asymmetric warfare.
Yes.
Right? Where it's really easy to screw them up and really hard to make it work.
Absolutely. Yeah. When Margaret Thatcher survived the bombing of the hotel that she was in Brighton at the Conservative Party conference in 1985, the IRA said, you got lucky. It said, you need to be lucky every time. We only need to be lucky once.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, admittedly, Margaret Thatcher was not killed by the IRA ever under any circumstances, but that's the logic, right? Yeah. You need to be lucky every time. We only need to be lucky once.
Now, Trump did come up with a clever plan B, though, when those didn't work.
He did?
Yeah, which was to yell at the ship owners.
Here's exactly what he said. These ships should go through the Strait of Hormuz and show some guts. There's nothing to be afraid of. They have no Navy. We sunk all their ships.
There you go. And there's a part B to that plan, BB, if you will. He also yelled at people whinging about high petrol prices. He said, short-term oil prices, which will drop rapidly when the destruction of the Iranian nuclear threat is over, is a very small price to pay for USA and world safety and peace. Only fools would think differently. That's going to work.
I just want to dwell on this one for a little bit. Because let's just come back to the fact that Trump made no public case for this war before it began. Now, okay, admittedly, that was his whole strategy. Like he wanted a, quick, surprising theatrical attacks. Okay, so you don't broadcast that in advance. And also, let it be said that extensive justification for a war doesn't make it any better. See Iraq. But it does present certain problems when he does not try to build a case for the war before the war begins. And one of the things is that you need to prepare people to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
Okay? Even in a war where there aren't going to be very many Americans directly involved in combat, there are still going to be sacrifices, as we are seeing. Even if it's petrol going up 40 cents a gallon, which is quite a lot. We'll come back again to exactly how much that's going to cost. People are going to have to make sacrifices. Trump has given them nothing to sacrifice for. Right? It was only after the attacks that he started making these incredibly half-assed case about Iran being an imminent threat, which we talked about last week. Like, Why should anybody be sacrificing for this?
Well, especially given that he's not even consistent with what the sacrifices are for.
Yeah.
Like I just played you Marco Rubio.
Yes.
Just dropping the nuclear threat completely.
Yes.
Like you expect if you're going to ask people to sacrifice anything for some kind of goal,
yes,
you better keep that goal consistent.
That is right.
Yeah.
Now, when people think of inspirational rhetoric about sacrifice, they often think of Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
Winston Churchill gave a lot of very well-known speeches in the Second World War where he always emphasized the great sacrifice that was going to have to take place. And he emphasized the desperation that was going to be involved. And he emphasized the personal sacrifices that he would be making. I've got nothing to offer except my blood, sweat, toil, and something else. And, he was, throughout the war, he was down there in his bunker when London was getting bombed. By the way, since it's PEP 250, I'm going to talk about something that I talked about right back in the early episodes of PEP, which is I went to the Winston Churchill War Museum in London in 2018, and I learned Winston Churchill basically invented the onesie. The onesie was a costume that he had tailor-made so that he could be comfortable in the bunker.
I think you said this on an early PEP. I'm pretty sure I dug it up and put a photo of it.
I did say it.
Yeah, it's green.
On an early PEP. Yes,
Yeah, it's green.
yeah. So here you have this leader of Britain who is, this is before the US enters the war. He's basically standing alone for democracy, and he's a guy who lives underground and looks like a baby and dresses like a baby. Not to take away anything from his achievement.
No.
But part of his achievement was these very inspirational speeches that he gave about sacrifice. Now, if you're from Bengal, you might point out that he sacrificed millions of Bengalis because he didn't want things like them getting food to interfere with the British war effort. But the point is, Trump has not prepared Americans in any way for sacrifice. And firing off a late night tweet about who would complain about high oil prices, when we're going to get world safety and freedom. Only fools would think differently. This is not preparing people for the sacrifice that's going to be required.
Granted, but on the other hand, while they're not prepared for sacrifice, the American people do have onesies.
Yes.
So they are some way towards where they need to be.
Now,
back to the straight.
Okay. I want to emphasize, in terms of the economic cost, it is going to hit Americans, but it's not Americans who are going to be hit hardest by any means. If we want to get an idea of who's going to get hit hardest, all we need to do is go back 4 years to the energy shock that was caused by the Ukraine war. So we saw their massive spike in the oil price, which we know about the kinds of inflationary effects that has everywhere, including in the US, including in Australia. But that was not the worst consequence of the Ukraine energy shock. The worst consequence was food shortages.
I'm just about to say that.
That is what is going to happen again. The Persian Gulf or Gulf of Arabia, depending on your point of view, is the source of about half of the world's fertilizer. Now, the shipping that is getting obstructed, that is not just stopping oil getting out. It's not just stopping liquid natural gas from getting out. That is stopping fertilizer from getting out.
Well, fertilizer is produced with gas.
Yes.
So they're connected.
And fertilizer is extremely time sensitive.
Yeah.
That delay means that the crops don't get fertilized.
Yeah. And if they don't get fertilized in season, they don't grow for the rest of the year.
Nope.
If you miss that 2 or 3 week window, which, by the way, is now, because this is just before the summer in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
If you miss that window, you have either significantly less crops or no crops for the season.
So this is going to be bad for farmers all around the world. It's going to be bad for people who eat food all around the world, but it's going to be particularly bad in food insecure countries. And in 2022, there were food riots that threatened the stability of a lot of governments. That is likely to happen again.
I was going to say that in 2007-8, there was food shortages that led to 37 different countries having riots. Yeah, and if you want to if you want me to isolate one country in particular, that's probably most at risk, it's India.
Yes.
Because they get pretty much all their fertilizer from that region. And so, they need a lot of food.
Yeah.
And so, you'd be expecting there to be serious food shortages in India.
Yes.
I don't know the exact percentage. I think it might be about 70% of their fertilizer comes from that area. Yeah.
So Iran's strategies are hurting a lot of countries and hurting a lot of people. And Iran is aware of this. This is what prompted President Pezeshkian to apologize for the fact that they had attacked other countries in the Gulf region and to say, we will stop attacking you if you get rid of your bases. That was interpreted by Trump as Iran, for the first time in 1,000 years, has apologized and surrendered to its neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was when he was really high on the surrender thing.
Yeah.
And he thought this was an opportunity to declare that Iran had in fact surrendered.
I got a bit more for that tweet for you here, Dave.
Yep.
Iran, which is being beat to hell, has apologized and surrendered to its Middle East neighbors and promised that it will not shoot at them anymore. Iran is no longer the bully of the Middle East. They are instead the loser of the Middle East and will be for many decades until they surrender or more likely completely collapse. Today, Iran will be hit very hard under serious consideration for complete destruction and certain death because of Iran's bad behaviour are areas and groups of people that were not considered for targeting up until this moment in time. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I left out the 1,000-year thing you just talked about.
Yeah. Iran responded to that by firing more missiles at Gulf Arab countries.
Oh, sorry, just quickly.
Yeah.
We're kind of moving on, but I just wanted to say on the Strait, the closing down the Strait, the one thing which people don't mention so much, which we got a correspondence about, so I might as well say it. The correspondence was from, the correspondence was from Curiel, who said, impacts on fertilizer are obvious. Oh, obvious? That's a bit harsh. Anyway, but knock-on effects from shortages in helium and sulfur will make the chip-making market even more out of reach for the average consumer.
Absolutely.
So
and as well as the party clown business.
So on one hand, Indians are going to starve, but on the other hand, there's not going to be so many balloon animals in the next children's party.
These sad, saggy balloon animals.
But anyway, there are so there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to get back to possession?
Yes. So Iran knows that this is not a great PR campaign that it is waging, but as you mentioned, this is the nature of asymmetric warfare. This is the strategy that is actually available to it. It knows the vast amount of economic leverage it has. It is showing the world the damage that it can do if it wants to. And I would say that one of the long-term consequences of this is going to be that any conflict in this region in the future, people are going to know that this is going to be one of the possible outcomes.
Oh, yeah, they'll know.
Yeah. Now, what can the United States actually do about this?
Well, part of the problem is they've got no plans. They didn't even start trying to think of what to do until the Strait was already closed.
Yes.
They didn't see it coming.
Now, when Trump says we destroyed their navy, well, he's destroyed their conventional navy. The other navy is the one that's run by the Revolutionary Guard, which is made up of small boats and underwater drones and
Last I heard, they still have 80% of their small boats.
Yes. Yeah, that can do a lot of damage and are very difficult to do anything about. By the way, that asymmetry is a problem that's been known about for at least 20 years. Like in the 2000s, there were small Revolutionary Guard boats harassing US warships in the Persian Gulf. So probably is something that they should have thought about. Now, okay, let's say peace breaks out tomorrow.
Okay.
Right? That Trump finds an excuse to declare victory and the Iranians agree to it and peace breaks out tomorrow. None of this stuff is going to get started up very quickly.
Oh, no.
If the Iranians have put mines down, they take a long time to clear. But even if suddenly shipping was completely unobstructed through the Straits of Hormuz, there is, just as it stands at the moment, there's a 2-week backlog of ships. That is going to take a long time to clear. There have been energy production facilities in Gulf Arab countries that have had to shut down. Some of them have been damaged in ways, like the one in Qatar, that are going to be very difficult to fix. Oil refineries have been shut down in some places because there's no oil to refine. And once oil refineries are shut down, they are very hard to start up again. Yeah, production has had to stop in some places because there was nowhere to ship the oil to. Once production gets stopped at these facilities, once again, it is very hard to start up. As far as the strategic oil reserves go, it's not that easy to tap them. That 172 million barrels that the US is releasing, it can release that at a rate of about 4.4 million barrels a day. A lot of strategic oil reserves are in difficult to release places. So what all of this says is even if the war were to end tomorrow, we would still be looking at months of knock-on effects, which are going to raise the prices of all kinds of things from airline tickets to food. If it goes on much longer, those knock-on effects are going to be exponential. It's going to compound, the effects. This is why the International Energy Agency referred overnight to this as the biggest disruption to global oil markets in history.
The estimate I've seen is that this is just America now.
Yeah.
For every $10 sustained increase in the international oil price, that's per barrel, inflation increases by 0.15 to 0.3 percentage points, and economic growth is reduced by 0.1 to 0.2 percentage points. So if it hangs around the $100 a barrel level for a while, that'll add over 1 percentage point for the year to inflation. And subtract 0.5 to 0.75 percentage point from economic growth. That's in America. And as we said, it's going to affect the other countries more.
Worst effects are in other countries. And the thing about fuel prices is it is said that they go up like rockets and come down like feathers. So even though the administration is confidently saying, they'll just come back down as soon as the war finishes, they will come back down very slowly.
I have a graph of the petrol prices just to show you that the first half is correct, that's for sure. Of it going up from $2.95 a gallon to $3.63 a gallon very, very quickly. But we'll see how slowly it comes down at the end.
Now, okay, so it is, as I say, it's Iran's tactics that are doing this. And a lot of Arab countries in particular are obviously very upset with Iran at the moment. But everyone is also very upset with the United States and Israel and Trump because it is blindingly obvious that this would not be happening if they had not launched this war. There is an extremely clear causal line between their decision to launch this war, their choice to launch this war, and the fact that everything is now getting more expensive and is going to get a lot more expensive. And people are literally going to die from the economic consequences of this war.
And it could get so much worse.
Yes.
It's only just started.
Yeah.
I mean, look, this might resolve itself. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but I know this. There are two areas where it is only from restraint that things haven't gotten much, much worse. One is oil refineries. There's oil all over this region. Everyone's vulnerable. Everyone's subject to the environmental damage. There's mutually assured destruction here on all sides. On March 2, Iran apparently launched a drone attack against a Saudi Arabian oil refinery. It was shut down. No one did anything. March 5, Iran launched a drone strike against an oil field in Iraq. The reason they did that was because it was owned by a US-based company. It's just sparked a fire, which didn't lead to a huge spill, but it did prompt a halt in the production. Once again, people let that go. Then on Sunday, Israel struck an oil storage facility in Tehran. In fact, they struck a few. And that wasn't like one little drone. That was a real strike. We got some video here. They hit the big time on this one. So that's not a glancing blow, Dave.
Nope.
That is a serious, serious explosion. It didn't just lead to noxious fumes, making it difficult to breathe in Tehran, etc. But the next day, it was still raining black raindrops.
Yeah, but I want to show you something else because it's also raining, but you can see that the rain water is actually black, also saturated, it appears, with oil.
Now, the foreign ministry spokesperson for Iran said these attacks on fuel storage facilities amount to nothing less than intentional chemical warfare against the Iranian citizens, but the consequences of this environmental and humanitarian catastrophe will not be confined within Iran's borders. The Red Crescent warned that air content in the affected regions contains significant quantities of toxic hydrocarbon compounds, sulfur and nitrogen oxides. A military spokesman for Iran told Iranian state media the regime would launch attacks targeting Israeli energy infrastructure if Israel continued its attacks on Iranian oil facilities. Quote, if you can tolerate oil at more than $200 per barrel, continue this game. Even Lindsey Graham is drawing this line of this. He tweeted out, our allies in Israel have shown amazing capability when it comes to collapsing the murderous regime in Iran. America is most appreciative. However, there'll be a day soon the Iranian people will be in charge of their own fate, not the murderous Ayatollah's regime. In that regard, please be cautious about what targets you select. Our goal is to liberate the Iranian people in a fashion that does not cripple their chance to start a new and better life when this regime collapses. The oil economy of Iran will be essential to that endeavor. Maybe he's thinking about that money that he said America will be making from the partnership. Trump was certainly thinking about that because he was less subtle than Lindsey. A White House advisor told Axios, the president doesn't like the attack. He wants to save the oil. He doesn't want to burn it, and it reminds people of higher gas prices.
Yep.
So that's Trump's bleeding heart there. But starting a tit for tat on oil refineries, that will go downhill very, very fast.
Yeah.
But there's one more I want to tell you about, and then I'll let you go on that, which is even worse. And this is the worst case scenario. Well, second worst, but behind a nuclear war.
Yeah.
Water.
Yes.
There are desalination plants all up and down the coast of the Strait. And Qatar, the UAE, they basically are dependent on desalination plants. 90% of Kuwait's drinking water comes from desalination plants. 86% of Oman's does. 70% of Saudi Arabia's does. Without a desalination plant, if they blow up the desalination plant for Riyadh, they need to abandon that in a week. Tehran was almost abandoned last year because of drinking water issues, and that was even without desalination plant issues. They're all sitting ducks for attacks. None of them are hard targets. They're all soft targets, every single one of them. They're all showing restraint against each other with mutually assured destruction here. Under international law, obviously, they're protected, but that matters. There have been the odd strike. Iran hit a desal plant in Bahrain with a drone, which didn't do anything. Iran attacked a power station in UAE that was keeping the power going on the desalination plant. Once again, minor attacks.
Yep.
On Sunday, one of Iran's desalination plants was hit by a US airstrike. Foreign Minister Araghchi tweeted this in English, so it's deliberately for American consumption. The US committed a blatant and desperate crime by attacking a freshwater desalination plant on Qasem Island. Water supply in 30 villages has been impacted. Attacking Iran's infrastructure is a dangerous move with grave consequences. The US set this precedent, not Iran.
I'm reminded of the fact that many years ago we had a fantastic honours student at the University of Sydney in the Department of Government and International Relations called Charlotte Gretsch-Madden, who wrote this honours thesis, which she then developed into a PhD thesis at the University of Uppsala. And it was called The Water Taboo. And it was about the power of the taboo against attacking water sources in war. And she noted that this is a taboo that is nearly always observed. Like it's almost as powerful as the nuclear taboo is in terms of, you just do not do this. So that is a taboo that I can see holding up during this war. unless some idiot with no moral sense decides to violate it.
Unless they want death and destruction to fall from the sky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So let's hope that we don't see that level of idiocy, because that really is mutually assured destruction. Yeah.
Do you got other areas you want to go to?
Just it's the final sort of comment on the whole economic side of this is I wouldn't say that any of this was unpredictable. Like, yes, it seems that they gambled on the idea that Iran couldn't shut down the Straits of Hormuz. But the reports that we're seeing about how neither Trump nor his administration foresaw the fact that, the effect that this was going to have on oil prices, or the effect that this was going to have on oil supply, or the effect that this was going to have on shipping through the Straits of Hormuz. This is what happens when you knock over an extremely easy target, as Nicolas Maduro was in Venezuela, and you get emboldened. Or this is what happens when you're dealing all the time with spineless American institutions who will just roll over, whenever you tell them to roll over. That, coming back to this term hubris, the fact that they couldn't see this coming, despite the fact that every war that takes place in this part of the world, it ends up resulting in higher oil prices. But once again, they're probably emboldened by what happened last July, which didn't. But yeah, this is this whole thing is an incredible act of hubris and lack of what should have been very easy foresight.
Yeah, that's actually my next section, no plans.
Yeah.
We've already talked about one of them, which was no plans for the Strait of Hormuz closing, which was eminently predictable.
Yep.
So predictable, we talked about it on this podcast.
Yes.
If we see it coming, we're not that bright. They should see it coming. I mean, I don't say a single thing I haven't read in a publication.
No, that's right.
so it's out there.
Yeah. If you've heard it in a podcast, a lot of people know about it.
Yeah, totally. Another area which we've touched on, only just slightly touched on, but I want to delve into now.
Yes.
No plans for regime change.
Yes.
Okay. The Wall Street Journal had got a quote here. Trump's hope, according to the US officials, was that the February 28th decapitating strike on the Iranian leadership would trigger either a collapse of the Iranian regime or the repeat of the Venezuela scenario in which more pragmatic officials chose to cooperate with Washington. Now, we explained last week why that was a vain hope.
Yes.
It wasn't just that they should have listened to PEP, but on top of that, the National Intelligence Council handed out a report a week before the war started where they said exactly this, that this was a fantasy and that even a large-scale assault on Iran, which is not what we got so far, but we could, it would be unlikely to oust Iran's military and clerical establishment from power.
Yes.
And if there was any doubt at all about that, it became clear in the incident which we've just touched on, the tweet from Pezeshkian, who is the Iranian president. He was and he is the Iranian president. Right now, he's kind of part of a leadership council where there's three parts. There's three people and he's one of the three, right? He put out that statement last week, the one about the apologizing to the neighboring countries, and Trump responded in his rational way that we described. But the military, we didn't say what came next.
Yeah.
The military just said, no. Sorry, Pez. They dispensed of the Pez.
Yeah. Go and apologize to yourself.
Yeah.
We don't care.
They're the ones who control the missiles,
Yes.
not the Pez. And the general of General Shekarchi of the armed forces spokesperson said Iran has not hit countries that did not provide space for America to invade our country. The IRGC put out a statement. President Pezeshkian made a mistake saying they won't attack neighboring countries, and our forces demonstrated his mistake. His comments were 5 hours ago, and since then, Dubai and Abu Dhabi have been struck. Ignore Pezeshkian's words during the war. Whoa. And the judiciary chief, he said strikes on regional states will continue. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, and the UAE all saw drone and missile attacks that day.
That's right.
That the Pez said I apologize. And like it wasn't clear at that point in time who was in charge of this country and who wasn't in charge, Pezeshkian then tweeted, "We have not attacked our friendly and neighbouring countries. Rather, we have targeted American military bases, facilities and installations in the region." So he just tried to walk it back.
This does actually remind me of when I'm giving my cat medicine and I'm apologising while I'm doing it because it involves like squirting it into his mouth with a syringe. I'm like, sorry. Yeah, so I'm apologising, but I'm continuing to inflict the medicine on him at the same time.
Yes. So it's pretty clear at this point in time, especially from those statements, especially from the one that said ignore Pezeshkian's words during the war, that Iran is now, if it wasn't before, is definitely now a military dictatorship. And that Trump, he wasn't taking the hint.
No.
He told Axios, as rumours of Khomeini's son taking over spread, he said, Khomeini's son is unacceptable to me. We want someone that will bring harmony and peace to Iran. I have to be involved in the appointment, like with Delcy in Venezuela. And what was his plan to make that appointment? He had no plan. And as you say, they then just turned around and appointed Mojtaba Khomeini.
Yep.
Whether he was hiding from Israel trying to kill him, by the way, or hiding because he has his leg blown off by the attack, which is some of the speculation out there. He didn't turn up to his own celebration ceremony.
Yeah. I heard he had foot injuries.
Yeah. Like I don't know. I've got some footage of it here. You can just put it underneath it, Lockie. They celebrated with a framed photo of him instead of him. I should note, there is footage out there you might have seen of them celebrating with a cardboard cutout of Mojtaba. That's AI.
Okay.
That's not real. This is the real one. It's just a framed photo of him.
Yeah. Given that Israel has basically promised to kill him if they get the opportunity, I am not surprised that he's hiding out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We talked a bit about him last week. I want to speak a little bit more about him.
Mm-hmm.
He does seem like a nasty individual. He excels in money laundering.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing he was known for was crushing the protesters in the 2009 Green Movement.
Yep.
His only known audio message, I didn't know this, the only public audio message of him in history is a 2024 announcement that he was putting an end to his classes at the seminary where he used to teach. That's it. That's the only time he's ever been on video or audio.
Wow.
Even the biographies that are now being published don't list any other jobs for him, just that he taught at that seminary for a while.
Wow.
He has zero religious respect, as you described last week. He's entirely backed by the military. He is just a military, I wouldn't use the word puppet, but he is a figure of the military. That when they're trying to tweet out photos of him, these are the photos they tweet out. Him kissing a rifle. You'd think that would go down better with the Republicans, but anyway. And this places the clergy in an interesting position. This is a new area we haven't talked about, though. And I'd be interested in your take on this.
Yes.
The clergy have been gradually being degraded in Iran for quite some time.
Yes. I mean, even the appointment of Khamenei was degrading the clergy.
Yeah.
Because Khamenei was nowhere near as respected as a cleric as Khomeini was.
Yeah. And that's continued. They still have some respect, but they're just not as important as they used to be.
Yep.
I don't get the impression they're supporters of this guy in the slightest.
No.
And they wouldn't like his lack of religious training. They wouldn't like that he's succeeding his dad, like you said last week.
Yes.
These are Shia clerics, and I didn't realize this. The split between the Shia and Sunni Muslims was over the fact that the Shia didn't support hereditary rulers.
That's right.
And the Sunnis did.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be liking that. And they'd be worried if he rules for another 30 years, as he'd be likely to do.
Yeah.
That might be the end of the clergy.
Yeah.
Like, because they can't go down forever. Like eventually they'll just drop off. And it's noticeable that almost all the congratulations of Mojtaba have come from the military side, not the clergy side.
Yeah.
There are going to be protests at some point in time in Iran. I will be interested to see which side the clergy backs.
Yeah. No, I mean, certainly this is a long way from what was Khomeini's original constitutional ideal, which was, basically supposed to be rule of clergy, rule of Islamic experts. It is definitely not that anymore. As I said last week, this might undermine the credibility of the revolution. I think the credibility of the revolution has already been undermined in so many ways. But I think that basically this is the transfer to an outright military rule. And I mean, someone said that during the Khamenei period, basically it was already the Republic was already secularized effectively, even though it does still enforce a lot of religious rules, but it is no longer a genuine religious rule. Yeah.
But when I think about this, that they've now appointed the guy that Trump specifically said he didn't want, who is now fully realizing a military dictatorship.
Yes.
It brought this grab from Trump to mind.
Mr. President, what's the worst case scenario that you have planned for in Iran?
Well, I don't know if there's a worst case. We have them very much beaten militarily from the military standpoint. They're still lobbing some missiles. At some point, they won't even be able to do that because we're hitting all of their carriers. We're hitting all of their missile stock. You know, they built up all these missiles over the last few years. They had a lot of them. They've shot a lot of them, and we're knocking out a lot. I guess the worst case would be we do this, and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous person, right? That could happen. We don't want that to happen. That would probably be the worst. You go through this, and then in 5 years you realize you put somebody in who was no better.
He said that quite well, didn't he?
He did.
Moshtaba was bad enough to begin with. Now he's coming to power after America killed his father, his mother, his wife, and his child, and possibly his foot. I wonder if he's in a mood to negotiate.
Yeah. Not very promising.
No plans, Dave.
No plans.
I'll tell you another area there's no plans. These are shorter areas. No plans for drones.
No.
Some might have thought that it was eminently predictable. Once again, I believe predicted by PEP that drones would play a role in the Iranian resistance, given that Iran manufactured drones for Russia, and they have proven to be very successful in warfare in the Russia-Ukraine war. Drones in general, they've become a drone war, the Ukraine war, essentially.
Yes.
So you would have thought, you might need to deal with drones.
Yes.
They didn't have a plan to deal with the drones. This last week we heard how Ukraine were actually now helping them out. Zelensky tweeted out, we received a request from the United States for specific support and protection against Shaheeds, that's the drones. In the Middle East region, I gave instructions to provide the necessary means and ensure the presence of Ukrainian specialists who can guarantee the required security. Ukraine helps partners who help ensure our security and protect the lives of our people. Glory to Ukraine. Wonderful. Now, what we only learned this week is that they made that offer 7 months ago.
Wow.
And were ignored. America spent nearly $6 billion in the first 2 days of this war, largely on missile defense.
Yes.
and,
$11 billion in the first week.
And not only have they spent huge amounts of money on missile defense, but they've used missiles they can't get back. And now they're actually sending missile defense over from Taiwan and South Korea to reinforce. That's where they're at. Now, they might not use them. That's just as a last resort. But how do you reckon China feels about that? I reckon they'd be pretty happy. And they could have avoided all of this if they just bothered to take the call from the Ukrainians back in August. Once again, hubris.
Yes.
And also, no plans.
That's right.
No plans for getting Americans out of the Middle East.
No.
Before the 2003 Iraq War, the State Department advised citizens to prepare to evacuate weeks in advance. They actually ordered a final evacuation days before fighting began. You know, they could do that. You know why they could do that?
Because they had spent months building the case for war.
And?
Everyone knew when the war was going to happen.
And
they had a functioning State Department.
And they chose when the war was going to start.
Yes.
It wasn't foisted upon them.
No.
They chose it.
Yes.
This time around, they also chose when the war was going to start.
That's right.
But the other things you said
about
the functioning State Department and building a case, those things did not apply.
Yeah.
And so they first warned Americans in the Middle East to evacuate. Do you know when?
it was several hours or days after the bombing started.
Days. 3 days after the bombing started, they suggested Americans should evacuate from the Middle East. We're talking 500,000 to 1 million people here.
Yeah.
Americans in the Middle East, right? And by the time they finally told them they should leave,
Yep.
if they rang up the State Department for help on how to leave, they got an automated message that said, please do not rely on the US government for assisted departure or evacuation. At this time, there are currently no United States evacuation points. All the airports were closed at that point in time.
Yep.
The airspaces were closed. People, I guess, could walk
Yes.
through the deserts to get out of the Middle East.
Yes.
I don't know how else they're meant to do it.
Well, maybe they could go to Iran because, as Pete Hegseth said, the US has complete control.
That's true.
Over Iranian airspace.
That's a great point. That's where
Yeah.
they should have gone. Now, to be fair, also all the embassies were shut down as well. To be fair, that has changed since.
Mm-hmm.
They have organised a few flights since. Not too many. They've gotten, I think, 10 to 20,000 Americans home.
Right.
Out of the million.
Yeah.
On chartered flights. But the fact is, Europe got all their people out days before the war.
Yes.
And they didn't know when it was going to start.
Yeah.
So they managed to do it.
Good point.
More poor planning.
Yes.
And here's one more.
Mm-hmm.
This is a future one. I always love when I say these kinds of things so I can then call back to it in a few months' time. No planning, Dave, for terrorist blowback. We keep hearing about how Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor for terror.
Yes.
They like saying that.
Yep.
Rubio loves saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd think there'd be some preparations for sleeper cell retaliation in America because it seems kind of obvious.
Yes.
I'm saying this on PEP, on the air right now. It's really obvious. DHS recently they diverted resources away from fighting terror and towards
picking up roofers and nannies.
You got it. Deportation duty.
Yes.
That's right. And only days before the war, Kash Patel pretty much fired everyone in the FBI unit tasked with tracking Iranian threats. Do you know why?
Because they had also been involved in something that Kash Patel didn't like.
Yes. The Mar-a-Lago, the investigation of Trump's documents in Mar-a-Lago. Now, for those who think to themselves, oh, my God, well, of course, what do you expect? You expect them to hold on to these guys who are trying to jail Trump? Well, number one, I don't care how many times I've got to say this, he should be in jail because of those documents.
Yes.
Back me up here, Dave. I was never on board with the January 6th
Yeah, I know.
prosecutions and the New York prosecutions, the Georgia prosecutions. I mean, the January 6th I thought was okay, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. But this one, the documents one, was always a slam dunk prosecution. Trump should die in jail because of those because of the documents and the obstruction of justice. If he was anyone else, he would be in jail for 20 years for what he did there. I'm telling you, they throw the book at this kind of stuff, and especially the obstruction of justice.
Yeah.
It was so blatant. He got away with that. He didn't even have a trial in the end because his buddy Eileen Cannon was in charge. Let's leave that aside. If they're trying to get him, of course Trump isn't going to want them around. But were they trying to get him? This is the role they played in that investigation, Dave, in case you're wondering. Those documents that Trump kept at Mar-a-Lago illegally.
Yes.
Do you remember what they were about?
Oh, there's all sorts of stuff.
There was, but do you remember what the document they were the most worried about was? It was Iranian war plans.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So when you have documents with Iranian war plans, you need to consult with Iranian war experts. That's their role.
Right.
They were consulted to identify what the documents meant.
Yes.
That's it. They weren't trying to get Trump. They were just called on to be witnesses about what the documents were. And that was enough for Kash Patel, days before a war that he knew was coming, to fire everyone in the FBI unit tasked with tracking Iranian threats. That's poor planning, Dave.
Yes. But look, Chaz.
Yes.
In the John Lennon song, Beautiful Boy,
yes,
which, of course, is a song that I always think about when I think of Trump.
Yes.
John Lennon tells his son, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans.
That's true. That's true. They're living a lot of life in the administration.
They are not busy making other plans.
That's right. That's fair enough. They are John Lennon's dream.
Yes.
One more thing. The FBI and the National Counterterrorism Centre were just about to put out a warning on Friday to state and local authorities, alerting them of a heightened threat due to the ongoing war. They're on the ball. They know this is coming. They don't need to listen to PEP. It featured details of where... They should listen to PEP still. It featured details of where the elevated threats were expected, what kinds of people are expected against, specific details of how Iranian proxies might carry out attacks across the country, as well as how to best respond to such violence. Seems relevant, doesn't it?
Does seem pretty relevant, yes.
But when the White House found out about it, they ordered the report to be placed on hold because presumably they don't want to face questions about Americans being under threat. So that report has been disappeared. Magnificent planning. If we come back to this in 6 months and America hasn't been attacked by some terrorist attack, they've been lucky. Not they've been good.
Not Kash Patel has done a great job.
That's right. So anyways, that's my no plan section.
Yeah.
Are you got anything to say at the war?
About the war. So just the overall picture at the moment is the Iranian regime's goal is to survive.
Yep.
It looks like they're achieving that goal.
Yep.
With the caveat that we always give about how you never know when a regime's going to fall over. But just given what we're seeing from the US and Israel now, like from Netanyahu actually turning down the regime change comments now, from Trump really changing the meaning of regime change, it doesn't look like they're achieving this objective.
No.
So if the objective of the war on one side it's to survive and on the other side it's to get rid of them, Iran is winning on the basis of those objectives. Now they're not winning on the basis of who is losing the most people, who is losing the most military equipment.
They're taking out all their missiles. They're not just taking out the missiles. They're taking out the mountains that the missiles are hidden under.
Yeah.
They've basically blown off the exits and entrances, so they're basically graveyards of missiles.
Yeah.
They're taking out the launchers. They've got like 10% of launchers left.
Yep.
In terms of missiles, because you can have all the missiles in the world, but if you don't have launchers, you can't fire them. They've gone down from like 200, I think it was like 650 missiles on the first day to like 8.
Yeah.
It's a huge drop off. Like you can put up the graphic I have there of that. There's a huge drop off in missiles. Yeah, all the military objectives they're doing extremely well in.
Yes.
It's just the strategy they're not doing so well in.
It's what Bruce Jensen called the principal policy objective. Like, what is the actual goal of the war? The US and Israel are not succeeding. So unless they do revise it to the kind of stuff that Marco Rubio was talking about, say our specific aims were, which I think there is some website where they've written this, the obliteration of the Navy, the obliteration of the missiles, unless they're prepared to go to that and say, we have done that, they're going to find it very hard to declare victory on the basis of their actual principal policy objectives. So it's very hard to tell what is going to happen in the next few weeks. But I would say that one of the possibilities is this revising and rewriting of what the war aims actually are, because it doesn't look like they're going to achieve the original war aim. Whereas it does look like the Iranian regime is going to achieve its war aim of survival.
The last thing I want to say about this war is I just want to tie up two loose ends that we've just left lying.
Yep.
One is the school bombing, which we talked about last week, and obviously there's been more on that.
Yes.
168 people died, including about 110 children. We pretty much know by now for sure the bombing was by America. There wasn't much doubt to begin with, but now there's just zero doubt.
But it is worth revisiting the kind of things that Trump was saying about it.
Oh, I've got it. Don't worry. Shall we have a look at his first denial?
Yeah.
Did the United States bomb a girls' elementary school in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill 175 people?
In my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran.
Is that true, Mr. Hegseth? It was Iran who did that?
We're certainly investigating.
Still investigating.
But the only side that targets civilians is Iran.
We think it was done. We think it was done by Iran.
Can you give us an idea?
Because they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions. They have no accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran.
That'd be a very inaccurate munition, Dave.
Well, I have actually tried to think about what Trump is asking us to believe here.
Yeah.
That at the same time that an attack was happening on a military facility next door,
Yes.
which was American Tomahawk missiles raining down
Yes.
and destroying that facility.
Several, yes.
At the same time, Iran was launching a Tomahawk missile.
A US Tomahawk
A US Tomahawk missile
Yes.
that hit a girls' school right next door
Yes.
at exactly the same time.
Yes, and we should also point out that, and by the way, we know it's a US Tomahawk missile because there was a video of it now.
Yes, yeah.
That the only countries that have US Tomahawk missiles are
Yes.
America, England, Australia, Netherlands, and Japan. So unless we sold weapons to Iran, it's very difficult to see how they got their hands on that US Tomahawk missile.
Yeah, even though Trump claimed Tomahawk missile is a generic term, lots of countries have them.
Yeah, no, they don't.
Yeah.
Can I just give credit where it's due here?
Yeah.
Because I've been pretty harsh on the guy.
Yes.
I don't think Pete Hegseth is very smart.
No.
But I have to say,
In that instance.
that was masterful.
Yes.
Like he wasn't so dumb that he was going to agree with Trump here.
No.
But he couldn't hang Trump in front of Trump.
No.
And his answer there, that was perfect. Like for his purposes I'm talking about.
Yeah,
in that he didn't back up Trump at all. If you listen to carefully what he said, he completely contradicted Trump, but in a way that sounded like he was agreeing with Trump. It was perfect and misdirected in just the right way. So all the Trump supporters would go, he's agreeing with Trump. When actually he was saying, no, he's got no idea. It was masterful.
I think we need to get a VAR on your to be fairs here. Is that seriously a to be fair to this guy being so spineless? He did it so well.
Are you not acknowledging that was impressive spinelessness?
This is the point of asking a VAR. To be fair.
I'm not
Great.
saying-
What a brilliant Tomahawk excuse that was.
I'm not saying the bar is high for him to clear.
No, it's so low.
But it's higher than I thought he was capable of. I'll just give him the credit. This is Mr. Death and Destruction we're talking about here.
Thanks for that, Lockie. That was my favourite intervention ever.
The papers.
You said what everyone is thinking.
That is about to become the most liked comment, I feel, on the YouTube video for this particular pair. There's no doubt the papers will love that one. And I like it as well. Anyway, this actually led to a hilarious question. I'm not sure if you saw Sean McCreesh from the New York Times, the question he asked Trump. Like he asked it with so much attitude. It was actually quite funny.
You just suggested that Iran somehow got its hands on a Tomahawk and bombed its own elementary school on the first day of the war. But you're the only person in your government saying this. Even your defense secretary wouldn't say that when he was asked, standing over your shoulder on your plane on Saturday. Why are you the only person saying this?
Because I just don't know enough about it. I think it's something that I was told is under investigation. But Tomahawks are used by others, as you know. Numerous other nations have Tomahawks. They buy them from us. But I will certainly, whatever the report shows, I'm willing to live with that report.
So he was actually suggesting there that the US had sold Iran a Tomahawk. Now, to be fair... To be fair, the US has sold missiles to Iran.
That's true. Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. Oliver North is still around.
Maybe.
I don't think they were Tomahawk missiles, but
no.
Yeah. That was a great question.
That was a great question.
Hegseth, though, did develop later on this other line of attack saying the Iranians, because they're terrorist cowards, they fire missiles from schools and they fire missiles from hospitals without specifically claiming that
a missile came from that school.
Yeah, but he was saying because they're terrorist cowards, this is what they do. And to make a point I made last week, if you're Iranian and you're seeing American and Israeli missiles coming down and hitting schools and damaging hospitals and things like that, who do you think is the terrorist coward? Like fighting wars from the air, that is what a lot of people's understanding of terroristic cowardice actually is.
Of course. There's so clearly Korean blowback here.
Yeah.
The other question about this school bombing is, was it an AI-directed missile?
Ah.
Not that would make the bombing any better.
No, of course not.
if they hadn't bothered to check the target properly. Yeah. But it would make it more of a concern going forward because we're expecting more of those in the future, right? Now, we don't know. The truth is we have no idea.
Yeah.
We know that Palantir are running a program called the Maven Smart System for intelligence analysis and weapons targeting.
Yes.
We know it's being used in Iran.
Yes.
We know that it runs on Claude-based workflows from Anthropic, which we're about to get to after this point.
Yeah.
We know that America ran 1,000 attacks in the first 24 hours, which is a lot of attacks. So they probably did use AI for a lot of those attacks. We also know Israel does use AI to identify targets. They blew up a park just the other day called Police Park, and no one bothered to check that it's not the police.
Yeah.
But we don't know if this precise attack was using Maven or not.
Right.
We're not sure.
For me, the big picture in all of this, right, because there's a lot of debate about was their targeting information not updated? Was the missile stray in some way? To me, the big picture is you can't fight a war like this without killing a lot of civilians.
Of course.
I'm always reminded about, because the Gulf War I, or actually, as my Pepper friend and colleague Sarah reminds me, that was not the first Gulf War. The first Gulf War was fought between Iran and Iraq. The Gulf War of 1991. I remember a cartoon by Alan Moore in the Sydney Morning Herald, which showed a Pentagon general pointing at a photo and saying, "We don't know what it was that we hit, but whatever it was, we hit it with pinpoint accuracy." That has been the story of every air war since then. There's always, some target that turned out not to be the correct target, but was hit with pinpoint accuracy. You can't fight these air wars without having these mistakes that kill a lot of people.
That's why it's bad to have a war of choice.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to decide to fight the entire thing from the air is what people on the ground would experience as terrorist cowardice.
And especially these things are going to happen when you shut down the Civilian Protection Centre of Excellence that was formed in 2023 to understand why non-combatants die in wars and to find ways of limiting civilian deaths. Look, they didn't completely shut it down.
No.
They just cut 90% of the staff because they couldn't legally shut it down. So they did the next best thing. And Pete Hegseth, he takes offence at you suggesting he doesn't care about civilian deaths. This is what he has to say.
Yeah, seeing it from the inside every single day, including this, no nation takes more precautions to ensure there's never targeting of civilians than the United States of America. From the boat strikes in the Caribbean, where every single strike is assessed to this campaign here, no nation in the history of warfare has ever attempted in every way possible to avoid civilian casualties. And frankly, that's a point that just isn't appreciated enough.
It's not appreciated enough, Dave. How much of an effort they made to not kill civilians in the Caribbean. They just killed soldiers, Dave. Just killed soldiers. Every person they killed in the Caribbean was a civilian.
Imagine choosing that as your example.
I know. I honestly, you saw, you're sitting next to me. When I saw that, I was like,
I
just couldn't believe it.
To be fair, he didn't exactly say they didn't kill any civilians. He just said those were all assessed.
That's true. That is true. That is true. We should also say, Pete Hegseth, when he first came in, the first thing he did was to sack all the senior JAG officers.
Yep.
And the reason, I don't have the quote here, but look, this is definitely a sentiment. The reason was because they're getting away.
Yeah.
Yep. And the JAG officers, for those who don't know, are the military lawyers whose job it is to make sure you follow the rule of law.
Yes.
Right. And of course, let's not forget that Hegseth came to prominence in the first place for defending soldiers who had been convicted of war crimes.
Yes.
Often after being dobbed in by their own fellow soldiers.
Yes.
So that's him. The other thing attached to this is not civilians, but it's kind of scummy, is the torpedo attack that you mentioned last week as well. We need to tie that up because there's more information on that as well.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned this Iranian warship was off the coast of Sri Lanka, nowhere near the war front, and it wasn't really, it wasn't taking part in any wars, it was just sailing, and a submarine took it out with a torpedo. I don't have the numbers of deaths. It's a lot. Over 100 people drowned. And the only reason they didn't all drown was because the Sri Lankan Navy came and picked them up, those who hadn't already drowned. Okay. Now, what we learnt this week, number one, it wasn't armed at all, no arms. Number two, America knew it wasn't armed when they shot it.
Yeah.
The reason America knew it wasn't armed was because America and the ship, the Dina it's called, were both taking part in the Milan 2026 exercise, which was a ceremonial exercise with the Indian Navy.
Yes.
Directly beforehand. This was before the war was declared, right? So they didn't know there was about to be a war. They went off to take part in this ceremony. When they came back from it is when they got taken out. And America was part of that ceremony as well.
Yeah.
And as part of it, you weren't allowed to carry ammunition. So America knew this ship had no ammunition.
Yeah.
Right? They knew that for a fact. They still took it out, and they still allowed those people on that ship to potentially die.
Yes.
That's why the Indians were condemning it so vociferously, because they knew what was going on. Is this legal? Now, I'm not going to give you a full breakdown, but I will say this. I think it might be.
Yeah.
I think it might be. I think that the fact that it was miles away from the battlefront,
yes,
no one cares.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. If they weren't in a neutral country's territory, fair game.
Yep.
And they were international waters. So
Yes.
that's not a problem. The fact it was unarmed, irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's a warship, there's a war. You can shoot it.
Yeah.
You don't need to give them a warning, no problems. The only issue that's potentially an illegal issue is leaving them to die.
Yes.
But it's a submarine.
Yeah.
Submarines can't take on lots of people easily. They're usually quite compact.
Yeah.
There's probably way too many people to take on the submarine. Also, how's the submarine going to take them? It's going to surface. Does it feel it might be under threat? We don't know. Like you might say, of course it wasn't under threat, but they might argue they thought they might be.
Yeah.
Also, did they know the Sri Lankan Navy were on their way? Because if the Sri Lankan Navy, if they know the Sri Lankan Navy's on their way in a boat that can take all these people, then what's the point? They might as well just let them take it. I mean, I still think it's scummy.
Yes.
But in terms of against the law, the laws of war, international law, all the laws that don't matter anymore, I'm not sure it is.
Yeah, I saw...
A lot of small dick energy, but...
Yeah, there was an article in the conversation basically saying the same thing.
Yeah.
That it is a legal target. There's no other way of looking at it. But still a deeply immoral act, I would say.
Okay. Do you want to say anything about the economy quickly, or do we go to Anthropic, which is the next area?
Let's just quickly talk about the US economy.
Okay, go for it.
Because can you believe it's already been a month since the last time we were talking about it? And we've got some very different things to talk about. So you might remember last time in January, the expectation for job creation was 50,000 jobs.
Yep.
But they had 130,000 jobs generated. Nearly
that was
all
magnificent.
in the healthcare sector.
We heard so much about that.
Yeah, we did. In February, the expectation was also that 50,000 jobs would be created.
And what happened then?
92,000 jobs were lost. Now, the one thing I did hear the administration pointing out was whining that a lot of that was because of a nurses' strike in California.
There was a nurses' strike in California.
There was a nurses' strike in California, and that did contribute to that loss of jobs.
It did.
But remembering that the 130,000 jobs created in January were almost entirely from the healthcare sector. You live by the healthcare sector, you die by the healthcare sector.
Also, the number of jobs that the stats boffins estimate they lost from that strike was about 10,000.
Yes. Yeah.
So
it wasn't
not 92,000.
Wasn't just that. And by the way, they're a little bit worried about the fact that the healthcare industry, which is so robust, is now also shedding jobs.
Yeah, it was minus 28,000 the health industry. So so they lost jobs even outside the strike. Manufacturing down 11,000.
Yeah.
Construction down 12,000.
Yeah. So
I got a stat for you.
Yep.
Could we just see the graph of the jobs while I'm telling you this? 2025, I've got a couple of stats here actually. 2025 appears to be the year where they've had the most months with negative job growth since 2010.
Yes.
The US economy, if you look at that graph there, has lost jobs since April 2025. Total jobs gains since May 2025 is minus 19,000.
Yeah.
And I got the best graph of all. So that's just normal kind of graph. Look at a 3-month average. The 3-month average is the orange line. Can you see the beginning of 2025 when Trump took over?
Yep.
That's the beginning of the descent on the mountain. There is an amazing drop-off from the moment Trump took over on the 3-month averages of jobs created.
Yeah.
So there's some graphs for you.
Yes. The other big economic number recently was a couple of weeks ago. The average home loan interest rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage actually dipped below 6% for the first time in years. Got to 5.98%.
Oh, that's nice.
And there were a lot of articles about how that's a very psychologically important threshold.
How is that going to go when inflation rises and the budget deficit increases because of the war?
That was 2 weeks ago. It's already back at 6.11% as a result of inflation or expectations of inflation caused by the war. So
and the deficit.
that was a nice number that has sadly been blown up like so much else.
I'll say a couple of positives because I like to be like that.
Yes, yep.
Wage growth is still good.
Okay,
3.8% for the year, 2.4% inflation. The inflation came out.
Yep,
and it's basically the same as last month.
Yep.
Basically 2.4% inflation last month and this month. That's for the year. That's not that. I mean, that's going to change.
Yeah, I'd say that's going to change
after this war.
Yes.
It's going to change, but yeah. At least so far, that's not too bad. Also, on the unemployment thing, this is, Dave, have a look at this. This is prime age employment population ratio. That's a lot of words.
Yeah.
What we're saying is 25 to 54-year-olds, this is the percentage of them that are employed. Not the percentage of those who are looking for a job, but the percentage in total.
Yes.
Okay, so this tells you what proportion of people in their prime age are actually working as opposed to just doing something else.
Yep.
Okay? And you can see at the end there, it's basically staying the same.
Yeah.
And where it is higher than it was through the teens. So what that means is the unemployment rate's going up to 4.4%.
Yeah.
Why it's going up is because more people are coming into the workforce.
Right.
It's not because they're losing jobs.
Yep.
It's because more people are coming into the workforce.
Okay.
So that is actually a positive. But at the same time, this is not a positive scenario because they are also losing jobs.
Yes.
And there's a lot of talk at the moment about, is this the beginnings of AI?
Yeah.
Like having an impact because those graphs I showed you before are not good.
No.
And I know the tariffs don't help.
No.
It was predicted that this would happen with the tariffs.
Yep.
But it's worse than was predicted.
Yes.
And so there is some concern that maybe this is the beginnings of something that's got nothing to do with Trump. This might be the beginnings of the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I guess we won't know for a while.
No.
Yeah, I don't have much else to add on that. Do you have anything else to say on this?
Do you think that we could be replaced by AI in this podcast?
I think it'd be pretty hard because you need to be able to program an AI to say, to be fair, a lot. I'm not sure they're capable of doing that quite yet.
I think,
maybe a few more decades.
I think also AI sleeps more than you do.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's the advantage I have over AI. I can kill it in its sleep. With my bug eyes. My bloodshot face. My shaky hands from energy drink. Anyway, let's talk Anthropic in the time we got left. Okay, so and for those who don't know, that sounds pretty hardcore, Anthropic. That's an AI company it's got a CEO, Dario Amodei, and his sister Danielle. They used to work at OpenAI.
Mm-hmm.
They left OpenAI with 15 other employees over ethical differences.
Yes.
So they are formed over ethics, essentially. It's part of their brand as much as anything. Not that they're saints, but until this week, I mean, they were working for the Pentagon.
Yeah.
but that's their marketing angle, that they're more ethical than some, and they worry about the ethics of AI. They have probably the most respected AI chatbot right now in Claude. I'd say. Yeah, I reckon. But that's the reason why they're working for the Pentagon. It's the only model that was integrated into the military's classified systems because it's the only model they trusted.
Yeah.
In particular, Grok, they think, is a massive security risk.
Oh, yeah. Look, I asked a few different chatbots whether the word most means any majority or a large majority.
Yes.
And Claude gave by far the best
Really?
answer. Yes.
Well, that's why the Pentagon love it.
Yeah,
They love semantics.
Claude was the only one that actually showed any understanding of language.
I love that this is your test.
Yeah.
That's great. I should say OpenAI, Google, and XAI all have Pentagon contracts, but not with classified information.
That's right.
All right. So they had a $200 million Pentagon contract, which isn't really much in the scheme of things. The company's worth $380 billion, but there's a lot of prestige and it just links to a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, last week, the week before actually, it got in the news that Pete Hegseth was giving Anthropic an ultimatum. Either they grant the Pentagon full unblocked access to its AI tools or they face severe consequences. And the consequences, there were two that he flagged potentially. One was publicly labeling them a supply chain risk, which would mean they were too dangerous to be used by the military. Or alternatively, to invoke the Defense Production Act and force the company to provide the product he wanted at the terms he wants. And that's weird to simultaneously say they're a security risk and he's going to force them to work for the Pentagon.
That was the before lunch and after lunch threats.
It's a bit weird. But anyway, let's go from the beginning on this one. Dario Amodei, he's a Democrat, okay? The Trump administration know that.
Yep.
That's probably part of the tension. But also, according to Washington Post, back in December, Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering Emil Michael asked Amodei whether in a scenario where nuclear missiles are flying towards the US, the company would refuse to help its country due to Anthropic's prohibition on using its tech in conjunction with autonomous weapons. And that sounds like the kind of stupid question you'd expect, a hypothetical.
Yeah. Hey, in this world where there are no human beings who are operating nuclear missiles, where we just turned over nuclear missiles to a chatbot.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, they asked the question. Amodei replied, apparently, that the Pentagon should reach out and check with Anthropic if that happens. He denies this conversation. He points out the fact he's implemented a carve-out for missile defense specifically for the Pentagon. So he says this is not an issue.
Yeah.
But then there was a bit of tension there. And then in January, Claude was apparently using the capture of Maduro. And someone from Anthropic heard about that and asked Palantir, the company that was using Claude, what the hell was going on. And they didn't sound happy. And Palantir flagged that discussion with the Pentagon. And then the Pentagon was starting to get pissed off. Going, what are you guys doing trying to mess around in our operations? And that's what prompted these conversations.
Right.
Okay. Now, to be clear, Anthropic isn't a group of peaceniks. They're actually the most hawkish of the AI companies. They're actually, one of their central aims is to beat China. They're obsessed with China.
Yeah.
But they do have two concerns they want to address. I'll explain to you those concerns. One, no mass spying on Americans. Two, no developing weapons that can be deployed without human involvement. The main limit is actually the domestic surveillance one. They're ethically opposed to using AI for domestic surveillance. They say if the administration invokes the Insurrection Act, or they label domestic terror groups broadly, they could lawfully use AI to just spy on the entire country at once with no problems whatsoever. And they're worried about what can happen there. You know, you've got facial recognition, you've got your search terms, you've got everything you search on the internet, everything you do, everything you spend could potentially be known by the government, processing it, making a profile of every American citizen.
These are all things to be worried about.
Yeah. they say it would make an immediate mockery of the Fourth Amendment. By contrast, they don't have a problem with autonomous weapons at all. They think autonomous weapons are the future, and we absolutely should build them as soon as possible. But they believe the technology is not ready.
Right.
They say it's not reliable enough yet to operate safely without a human in the loop. And they're worried about things happening like the school bombing.
Yeah.
And they're asking for an exclusion on autonomous weapons just for now to allow for research and development necessary to make them safe. So it's not pacifism.
No.
It's risk management.
Yes.
Okay? That's what the Pentagon should be doing. And, and is the school bombing the actual classic example of what they warned about happening immediately? We don't know. We should also say they did have it said the missile defense carve-out. They also had cyber operations carve-outs for drone swarms, all kinds of carve-outs, right? But the Undersecretary wasn't satisfied. He said, the exceptions don't work. I cannot predict for the next 20 years all the things we might use AI for. So all lawful use, that's what they wanted, all lawful use, seems like a good thing. If Congress wants to act, great. We have our own internal policies. We'll follow them. It's our province to decide how we fight and win wars. If they're willing to impose red lines that limit lawful military use, what's to stop them from enforcing a shutdown if they disagree with how we're applying it? If in the middle of an operation they decide it violates something and shut it down, that's not just unreliable, it's dangerous to the troops depending on it. And the spokesman for the Pentagon added to that, the Department of War has no interest in using AI to conduct mass surveillance of Americans, which is illegal, nor do we want to use AI to develop autonomous weapons that operate without human involvement. This narrative is fake and being peddled by leftists in the media. Here's what we're asking. Allow the Pentagon to use Anthropic's model for all lawful purposes. What do you think, Dave?
I think it sounds like a crock of shit.
Can you give us more?
Yeah. We don't know what all the uses of AI are going to be over the next 20 years. So, I mean, what are they planning to expand it into?
They're saying we don't know.
Yeah.
And so we shouldn't have to ask Anthropic every time we do anything. Lives are at stake.
Yeah, lives are at stake because of these bozos. I don't even know where to begin with this stuff. Like, all lawful uses, just given everything that the administration has done over the last year to stretch the bounds of lawfulness as far as possible, and just sometimes do blatantly unlawful things and then kind of retrospectively sue it into lawfulness.
Yes.
I can understand why, if you've got any ethics at all, why you would object to that.
Just this week,
yes,
Pete Hegseth was bitching about the rules of engagement.
That's right.
And how they didn't matter in his non-woke military.
Yes.
Just this week.
Yeah.
Just this week he was citing the Caribbean deaths.
Yes.
Which clearly broke the law.
Yeah. So you just don't want to you don't want to trust this administration's interpretation of what lawfulness is. But second, people observe all kinds of restrictions and constraints all the time within the boundaries of the law.
Yes. That's true.
I mean, this is kind of what ethics is all about.
That's true, actually. That is exactly the definition of ethics.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
It's, like, okay, it could be legal to do this, but it might be wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes.
And then just one more thing about them bending the law.
Yeah.
Can I remind you that they literally just tried to jail Democrats for recording a video telling soldiers to not follow unlawful orders?
Yeah, that's a pretty good example of what we're talking about.
Yeah. Not to mention, by the way, I mean, that's a great point about ethics.
Yeah.
I love that point. Not to mention, there's a heap of domestic surveillance that's in a legal grey zone as well. It's not lawful, it's not unlawful. Your search history, your algorithm preferences, CCTV footage collected in public places, your GPS tracked movements, your credit card transactions, any conversation you have with a foreigner, every single one of those things can be legally collected and is legally collected by different people at the moment. And the Pentagon could put them all together with AI.
Yeah.
And I reckon the Pentagon would probably err on the side of inclusion in the list of things that they would go. So, I agree with you, Dave. Yeah. It is a crock of shit.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Elon Musk was tweeting out, Anthropic hates Western civilization. Because he had his eyes on taking Anthropic's place, obviously. And
with Grok.
With Grok.
The world's least trusted chatbot.
Which literally the government's putting out warnings as a security risk. Hexeth, by the way, retweeted that. Anthropic hates Western civilization. Very professional stuff.
Was it, though, was it Katie Miller who this week asked all the different chatbots, was it right to go to war in Iran?
I haven't seen
And
that.
most of them are like, well, there are several considerations here, blah, blah. But Grok was just like, yes.
I haven't seen that.
She's like, this is the chatbot America needs. I don't know if it was Katie Miller, but that it was someone.
It rings true.
And that is definitely the sort of content that Katie Miller is posting these days.
By the way, I should say, with the Anthropic hates Western civilization, he was referring to an article about Western values, and the Anthropic changed their constitution to have something about values. Something, whatever, it doesn't matter. My point is, that was what he was tweeting out. Amadei's response to all this was, our strong preference is to continue to serve the department and our warfighters with our 2 requested safeguards in place. Should the department choose to off-board Anthropic, we will work to enable smooth transition to another provider, avoiding any disruption to ongoing military planning, operations or other critical missions. Our models will be available on the expansive terms we have proposed for as long as required. We remain ready to continue our work to support the national security of the United States. Dave, the Pentagon uses an analogy. Should Lockheed Martin be able to tell the Air Force how to fly its F-35s? No, they shouldn't. So why should Anthropic be able to tell the military how to use Claude? What's your response to that? They're a contractor. Their job is to provide a product. How is it their business to specify how you use the product that you've bought from them?
I suspect that Lockheed Martin would object to its planes being used in certain ways, right? Say the US military decides... we're going to do suicide bombings with planes now. This was a tactic that worked to devastating effect on 9/11. We are going to use these. We're going to use these Lockheed Martin planes for suicide bombing. I think that Lockheed Martin would object to that now, and in fact, they might even say contractually, you can't use our planes as suicide weapons. Like you can't use our planes to. As you can't use our planes as missiles, right? Now, this is all incredibly far-fetched, right? Because, I mean, usually with planes, these are just not kinds of issues that come up. It's a technology that's been around for a very long time.
You'd probably use a shittier plane.
Yeah, with very, very clearly established military uses. The point that I'm making is this kind of technology is completely different. As the military has ham-fistedly pointed out, we don't even know what the uses of this are going to be in 20 years' time, whereas we've got a pretty good idea of what the uses of planes are going to be in 20 years' time. This technology is right on the frontier at the moment. It's technology that didn't even exist in the same form 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So... it's technology whose potential is still not completely known. It's technology that even now, the makers of it still aren't entirely sure about exactly how it works, about exactly why it does certain things. None of these things are issues with planes. Right, so the reason why it seems absurd that Lockheed Martin would ever impose restrictions on how planes could be used is because it's a completely different kind of technology that is so established that Lockheed Martin would never be at odds with the military about how it would be used. This technology is very different.
So the argument might be that Anthropic should have a say in how it's used because they're the only people who understand, who can potentially even understand their own product.
Yeah, that's right.
So once again, it's a risk management thing,
Yes.
not an ethics thing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I gotta say, look, speaking for myself,
Yeah.
I respect that point of view. I don't think it's my point of view.
Mm.
My point of view is I'm okay with the government saying an AI company shouldn't dictate our policy against our will.
Mm.
I'm okay with that. Fire them. Hire another AI company. Fair enough. They're not delivering the product you want.
Mm.
They're delivering. They've got conditions attached to it, strings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fire them. Musk will jump on board.
Yes, he will.
He'll happily do it. But two things. One, why did they sign a contract with Anthropic in the first place when the company's usage policy clearly stipulated those two conditions for their software
Yes.
over a year before the Pentagon contracted with Anthropic?
Yeah.
Is it Anthropic's fault that the Pentagon clicked I agree on their terms and conditions without reading them? And number two, if you do want to fire them, I don't understand why Anthropic needs to be destroyed by declaring them a supply chain risk.
Yeah.
Why not just fire them?
Yes.
And move on? Now, Trump and Hegseth disagree with my points. Trump tweeted, "The United States of America will never allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. That decision belongs to your commander-in-chief and the tremendous leaders I appoint to run our military. The left-wing nutjobs at Anthropic have made a disastrous mistake trying to strong-arm the Department of War and force them to obey their terms of service instead of our Constitution. Their selfishness is putting American lives at risk, our troops in danger, and our national security in jeopardy. Therefore, I am directing every federal agency in the United States government to immediately cease all use of Anthropic's technology. We don't need it. We don't want it. And we will not do business with them again. There will be a 6-month phase-out period for agencies like the Department of War who are using Anthropic's products at various levels. Anthropic better get their act together and be helpful during this phase-out period, or I will use the full power of the presidency to make them comply with major civil and criminal consequences to follow. We will decide the fate of our country, not some out-of-control radical left AI company run by people who have no idea what the real world is all about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again."
I love the idea that this is such a radical, out-of-control, woke left company that they signed all of these contracts with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the fact they don't need Anthropic, but they're going to need 6 months to move on from them as well. By the way, it turns out it's more like 12 months.
Yeah.
They're really wound into the Pentagon. And Claude is very good, as it turns out. So anyway, so it seems that Pentagon would prefer to sacrifice competence and quality in order to reserve the right to conduct domestic surveillance, it appears. Also, even though the Pentagon insists they don't want to infringe on either of Anthropic's conditions, according to Trump, it will put American lives at risk anyway if those conditions exist. Okay, and then we got Hegseth's response. Cloaked in the sanctimonious rhetoric of effective altruism, they have attempted to strong-arm the United States military into submission, a cowardly act of corporate virtue signaling that places Silicon Valley ideology above American lives. The terms of service of Anthropic's defective altruism will never outweigh the safety, the readiness, or the lives of American troops in the battlefield. Their true objective is unmistakable: to seize veto power over the operational decisions of the United States military. That's unacceptable. In conjunction with the President's directive for the federal government to cease all use of Anthropic's technology, I am directing the Department of War to designate Anthropic a supply chain risk to national security, effective immediately. No contractor, supplier, or partner that does business with the United States military may conduct any commercial activity with Anthropic. Anthropic will continue to provide the Department of War its services for a period of no more than 6 months to allow for a seamless transition to a better and more patriotic service. Okay. Now, other AI companies, obviously, like XAI will take their place, obviously, even though, like I said, it's been declared a security risk.
Yes.
So just to be clear, the General Services Administration won't use Grok.
Yes.
But the Pentagon will. They care more about swinging dicks than actual security.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that then? Though?
Well, okay.
The supply chain risk thing.
We have to be clear on exactly how big this is. Any company doing any business with the Department of Defense.
That's Google.
Yep.
That's Amazon,
Yes.
which, by the way, does a lot of business with Anthropic.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's also just, I don't know if it's millions, but there are tens of thousands of companies that do business with the Department of Defense. Like the Department of Defense has millions of contracts.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are lots and lots of businesses, that they're basically prohibiting from using Anthropic. Yeah.
It's a big deal. Do you what's your response to it?
It's an attempt to basically impose the death penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And it's an incredibly petty response, to what Anthropic has actually done. And I mean, it really encapsulates this whole administration in a nutshell. Like the so easily wounded pride, the need for the display of dominance above everything else. Like this is why they are fucking up everything.
You know, that's even truer than you think.
Yep.
Because it's also complete bullshit.
Ah.
Like a lot of their overreaches are.
Yep.
It's just got no legal leg to stand on, which I will talk about after the white flash. But, because I know you got to go, but I want to ask you one question before you go.
Yes.
This is kind of skipping to the end, but I just really, really want to know your answer.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just completely skipping all over the place here, so forgive me for this. I'm kind of going to my conclusion a little bit here, which is bad form, but I want to get Dave's response to it. Now, my personal view on all this, and by the way, all the supply chain risk, that's not going to happen, okay?
Yep.
You'll hear why in a second. I wish Hegseth wasn't such a dick, right? But I do think there's a real case to make that if AI is about to be as powerful as everyone says it is, and we have no idea just how powerful it may be, it could be the biggest weapon in the world by a long way. A long way. If that's the case, do we want a private company controlling what happens to it? Ever? Because, like, forget the Department of Defense for a second. Should there be any private company that controls AI and is more powerful than the rest of the world potentially combined? Like, than governments, than America, than everything. Like, isn't this a concern, having a private company in charge? Imagine if that's Elon Musk. Like, it could be Elon Musk. It may be Elon Musk. Like, should people like Amadei, even if you agree with his decisions, and I do agree with his decisions, should people like him be in charge of making those decisions?
That's a very reasonable point. And it's something that I'm going to need some time to think about. I think, because, the issue of how powerful AI is going to become, how powerful we're going to let this technology become, that is the kind of thing that has not been thought through before we've completely embraced this stuff, or the powers that be have completely embraced this stuff. I mean, in terms of failing to plan, the whole adoption of AI is just one long history of failing to plan.
Yeah. And look, no one knows better than me how hopeless Congress is.
Yes.
But at this point in time, right now, at this early stage, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with Congress making laws.
Yes.
Doing the regulations that Amadei's asking for.
Yes.
Those exact regulations.
Absolutely.
And he can advise them.
Yeah.
Than just allowing Amadei to just do it on his own bat.
That's true.
That would make me a lot more comfortable. Not Department of Defense.
Yeah.
And not Amadei, but Congress, who have no role to play at the moment, it seems. Yes. But I wish they would. And not just them, other Congresses as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that's great.
Yeah.
But what's the alternative? I just don't understand. You know, like I think this to me sounds like the beginning of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Where the scientist is a good guy, like Amadei, great guy, and then he becomes a father of some Terminator robot or something.
Yeah.
Like just So anyway, that was just the last thing I wanted to get your views on.
Yeah.
All right. One more question for you, actually, just on that. Sorry. Let's say, okay, so obviously Amadei shouldn't be punished for disobeying the government. But what would you say to the idea of the government at least taking a slice of AI companies?
Well, that...
It's not very libertarian, but...
No. I can imagine. Well, that would be acknowledging the reality that all of these companies were developed ultimately with government backing, just like the whole of Silicon Valley was.
I don't mean for money reasons. I mean for control reasons.
Yeah.
To at least have a say.
Yeah. As Linda Weiss's book, America Inc. shows, developing technology advantages has always been this prerogative of the Pentagon. And they have encouraged companies and, funded companies to develop things for purely commercial use just because there's a possibility that will one day have military uses as well. And there's all of this mythology about Silicon Valley being full of these libertarian heroes who have just gone and done everything on their own. But no, it's always been completely dependent on Defense Department contracts. So that would actually make a bit of sense.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dave. I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
I'll see everyone else after the White Flash for a little bit more Anthropic and maybe a little bit of correspondence. And Dave, till then, stay peppy.
Stay peppy. Happy 250.
Woo! Welcome to the other side of the White Flash. This is Chaz Unleashed.
With Lockie the Lackey.
That's the
and
one.
I'm not mad at Chaz anymore, but if he pulls any more of that shit, I will get angry again. It's 250 new Lackey.
Scary Lackey.
Someone's got to hold you accountable.
Oh, God.
The comments aren't enough anymore.
Well, the comments are working pretty hard.
No, they do.
You're going to hear some of them in a second. I will say, look, I mean, I just can just imagine how much they hated that bit where I was congratulating Hegseth on not being a moron. I was going, I totally acknowledge that he's setting incredibly low standards for people. But I mean, that's a fact. He just exceeded my extremely low expectations. I was watching that clip and thought, wow, that is just that's actually more intelligent than I expected from him. Like, he's in an impossible situation and he kind of got through it, kind of. I don't know. People criticizing Trump and not him. Amazing.
No, I get your point.
Yeah, but anyway, whatever. I'm sure the Peppers hated it. Also, I was talking about this terrorist thing, about how I was saying I boldly predict terrorism.
You were indeed, yeah.
And we get back, and behind us is CNN. There have been 3 terrorist attacks since I stopped reading.
Huge, immediate feedback.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not, they're not massive. They're not like 9/11 or anything, but just, I think this is going to be a thing. I think there's going to be a bit of terrorism over the next little while, and they are not ready for it at all. But anyway, I don't know because I wasn't paying much attention to it. I was too busy preparing this. But it does look like this is going to be a topic in the coming weeks.
Yeah, wow.
So we will see. Let's get back to Anthropic. As I said before, I've jumbled this up completely trying to accommodate Dave before he goes. But let's go back to, like, Hegseth had just nailed Anthropic, and this is before I was going to tell you about why he hasn't nailed them at all. But the next thing that happened, which I should just tell you about, was other AI companies tried to fill the void. As soon as Hegseth announced, okay, Anthropic, you're gone, you had a bunch of other AI companies like XAI. But in particular, what got weird was Sam Altman from OpenAI tweeted out the following. This is literally the same day the Pentagon banished Anthropic. Tonight, we reached an agreement with the Department of War to deploy our models in their classified network. AI, safety, and wide distribution of benefits are the core of our mission. 2 of our most important safety principles are prohibitions on domestic mass surveillance and human responsibility for the use of force, including for autonomous weapon systems. The DOW agrees with these principles, reflects them in law and policy, and we put them into our agreement. We also will build technical safeguards to ensure our models behave as they should, which the DOW also wanted. We're asking the DOW to offer these same terms to all AI companies, which in our opinion, we think everyone should be willing to accept. We have expressed our strong desire to see things de-escalate away from legal and governmental actions and towards reasonable agreements. So that sounds like Sam Altman replaced Anthropic using exactly Anthropic's conditions, and the Pentagon was fine with that. Except Altman put bits of the contract online, and then unsurprisingly, tech guys started poking holes in it. They noted that the phrase, the Department of War may use the AI system for all lawful purposes consistent with applicable law, was not a good start to the bit he put up in the contract for all the reasons we just described. It turns out he agreed to massive loopholes. He could have conducted a nationwide surveillance dragnet through if you wanted to. I should say that the Pentagon had tried all of these loopholes on Anthropic, who had said no.
That's because they had Claude read over their
Maybe that's why. And so Altman promised to change the conditions. After the weekend, he published revised bits of their contract. The new language noted that the AI system shall not be intentionally used for domestic surveillance of US persons and nationals, and that for the avoidance of doubt, the Department of Defense understands this limitation to prohibit deliberate tracking, surveillance, or monitoring of US persons or nationals, including through the procurement or use of commercially acquired personal or identifiable information. That sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty watertight. But the techies found more loopholes.
Yeah. Cool.
Like the use of the word intentionally in shall not be intentionally used for domestic surveillance. That's a loophole word. Or the word deliberate in prohibit deliberate tracking, surveillance, or monitoring. You can see the exceptions in front of you. And how is tracking or surveillance defined exactly? What other terms are there in the contract that they didn't publish that might undermine these protections? These are all good questions. And so it goes. It's a bit of a circle going around and no one's really happy. Altman's not happy. They're not happy. The fact is, what is clear is that Altman is going to allow the government to do whatever they want to do as long as they cover his ass snugly enough. That's what's going on here. So I have no faith at all that the Department of Defense is so stupid that they would shoot themselves in the face by getting rid of Anthropic when Anthropic is all woven into their system just so they can have exactly the same conditions with OpenAI. I just don't believe it. Let's now talk about the supply chain risk, why I said it's rubbish. Declaring an entity a supply chain risk is usually a move reserved for risky dealings with foreign companies. In fact, I don't think it's ever in history applied to an American-owned and operated company.
Huge. Wow.
According to Hegseth, reminder, it means effective immediately no contractor, supplier or partner that does business with the United States military may conduct any commercial activity with Anthropic. Now, that would be extraordinary. It would mean Anthropic couldn't do business with Google, Amazon, pretty much all the biggest companies in America. It'd be a corporate death sentence like Dave said. It would mean that Amazon couldn't use Claude Code for anything, not even for the Amazon Prime TV menu, and still contract with the government. Destroying, that's Donald Trump's thing, saying you can't even contract with the government at all, not just defense. Destroying an American company just because its leaders have some morals and some backbone would be incredibly dictatorial, and you'd think it would be illegal.
But you said, according to Hegseth.
Yeah. It would mean, just one more, I just thought.
Okay.
It would mean the US government is allowing NVIDIA, on the video, or however you say it, to sell advanced microchips to China. Advanced AI microchips.
Yeah.
But not allowing department caterers in the Department of Defense to use Claude Code to manage their inventory spreadsheets. That would not make sense. Is it true, Lucky? Let me read you the legislation. Under 3252T4, a supply chain risk is defined as the risk that an adversary may sabotage, maliciously introduce unwanted function, or otherwise subvert the design, integrity, manufacturing, production, distribution, installation, operation, or maintenance of a covered system so as to surveil, deny, disrupt, or otherwise degrade the function, use, or operation of such system. None of that applies to Anthropic. None of it. You can just rewind and listen again. It doesn't. The administration cannot produce evidence that Anthropic poses a risk that could enable hostile regimes to compromise American defense systems. In fact, just the opposite. They've been pressuring Anthropic to continue working for them. Clearly, that's not...
What more hostile regime is there than the radical left?
Yes, that is true. The designation of a company as a supply chain risk is about companies introducing backdoors or vulnerabilities in US military systems that could be used for espionage or sabotage. The courts would recognize that this is a bad faith designation. This clearly is not what's happening here. But it's not just that. You might say I rely on the courts too much. I have too much faith in the courts. Yeah? How about this? Section 3242 says that before a supply chain risk designation can be made, before it, the government has to find that the designation is necessary to protect national security and that less intrusive measures to reduce risk are unavailable. And B, they have to notify Congress. They haven't notified Congress. And I'm pretty sure they haven't done the first part either. So they haven't fulfilled the requisites. It's going to immediately get struck down. Immediately. But even without the prerequisites, I just think it would get struck down. But with the prerequisites, it's definitely going to get struck down. And there's more. The provision does not grant the Hegseth powers beyond excluding a company from participating in contractual bidding for a limited set of systems. Which systems are we talking about? Before, remember the word covered systems? Those are information technology systems restricted to those used for intelligence activities, cryptologic activities related to national security, command and control of military forces, and you can force other companies providing services for those systems from not using the designated companies for those protected systems only. Mm-hmm. Okay, so command and control, cryptological, and intelligence. Basically classified stuff. All right, and that makes sense. That's fair enough. If someone is a danger or a risk, you should be able to stop them.
Yeah, of course.
Employing their software on classified materials and sensitive stuff. But the whole cleaner using their spreadsheets to do bookkeeping.
Hey Claude, is this an unlawful act that I've been
Yeah. That doesn't apply. Yeah. Okay, so this doesn't extend to all military contracts, no matter what Pete Hegseth has to say. It doesn't extend to other government contracts at all. The military can still use Anthropic, despite what Hegseth said, according to the law, on unclassified computers, on military-issued phones, even if the designated company is barred from protected systems, just as long as it's not for a classified purpose. It certainly doesn't stop defence contractors from using the company for their own purposes. That has nothing to do with the military. So all that shit Hegseth said, it's just not in the law. He's making it up.
Yeah.
Which is very typical of the administration, to bully dissenters for no reason. This is what Dave was saying. This is exactly what I was going to say. To bully dissenters for no reason, then to establish dominance. They love establishing dominance. To overreact completely unnecessarily and counterproductively. To blatantly flout the law, when doing so, ironically, is while they're protesting that they would never break the law. All just to send a message, when the message is an appalling message anyway. That's just so typical of this administration. The message in this case is, if you contract with the Department of Defense and we want you to do something you hate, we'll destroy you if you protest. That's a stupid message. China would love the Department of Defense driving the best AI companies away from dealing with them. China would love that. And, I mean, this is China's greatest competition. It's just such a stupid thing. Anyway, having said all that, like I said, Pete Hegseth could at best, if they actually followed the law, stop Anthropic from providing subcontracting to services that, say, Google or Amazon were using for classified systems in defense. That's the best they could do. But they can't even do that because they're not following the process properly. All right? Okay. Don't feel too sorry for Anthropic, though, because remember, their selling point is they're an ethical AI company. This is just golden advertising for them.
Yeah, but you've described them twice in The Office as well as the start of a evil sci-fi movie.
They just remind me so much of the beginning of Terminator 3.
Yeah.
It's just so... I mean, if this was the other way around, I would say Terminator 3 was written about Anthropic. But that's their selling point, an ethical company. In a field where there's lots of paranoid clients, with good reason, by the way, and with a lot of money. And remember, they're worth $380 billion. And this is a $200 million contract. So promoting themselves in their industry, that suits them just fine. So, I mean, Anthropic ran a Super Bowl ad. Think about the expense of a Super Bowl ad, right? Claude became one of the top 10 most downloaded free apps in America after that Super Bowl ad.
Whoa.
The day after Hegseth cut them, they were the number one app in America.
Whoa.
Yeah. Bang. Spokesperson said it's broken. Anthropic has broken its own sign-up record every day since early last week across every country where Claude is available.
Wow.
Thanks to Hegseth. By the way, users are also abandoning OpenAI at the same time because
Well,
they don't trust
for
them.
that online as well.
Yeah, of course. They just don't trust Altman after that. And remember, Defense Department contracts are tiny compared to the open market. Also, Department of Defense, they're negotiating with Anthropic again anyway. They probably realise what a pain in the ass it's going to be to try and get rid of them. So I bet you they end up signing a new limited agreement just so they can take the blacklisting off the table. For God's sake, how much money is that going to cost the Department of Defense to have to update all their systems? But anyway, so now we've got the bit which I talked to Dave about, where I was going to talk about, but just for a second now, forget Anthropic and think about the broader picture, which is what I introduced to Dave before, the broader picture of the fact that, Hegseth might be a dick, but he might also be right. That we don't want private companies to be completely in control of this technology going forward. Right now, it seems fine. But just imagine 10 years, 15 years, how big is this technology going to be? Do you want the next trillionaire, whoever that is, and the personality problems they will inevitably have to end up being a trillionaire? Do you want that person to be a living god in control of everything? Do we want that? I don't want that. So I don't know the answer. At the moment, the answer is Congress. Or the closest thing we got to an answer is Congress. But maybe we just need a new answer. I don't know what it is, but these are new questions. And for us to act like there's an easy answer of just saying, well, Hegseth's a dick, so just do the opposite of what he says. You're not going to care about Hegseth in 10 years, okay? I promise you. You won't care about him in 10 months. So let's just think a bit broader, I reckon. All I know is we've got the worst of all situations right now, which is we've got a completely unaccountable private sector able to do whatever the fuck they want with AI. And we've got a Department of Defense that's obviously going to get around Anthropic's conditions and do whatever they like with AI as well. They're going to do all the surveillance they like. They're going to do all the autonomous machines, whatever. And they're going to be working with a company that's not as rigorous or as competent as Anthropic. I'm not sure who's more of a threat out of those two, the private company or the Department of Defense, both who are out of control. But it's not a great situation we've got. And I don't know what the answer is, but just want to share it with you.
There's just too many bad faith actors. It's not a nice time to have to consume PEP.
Sorry, man. Let's do 10 to 15 on correspondence, shall we? Yep. First of all, you will notice our correspondence extra that we put out. Thank you, Lockie, for putting that out. We just had a bit of extra that we cut for time. Do you like them? We're thinking of recording little batches of 15 to 20 minutes of correspondence sections and putting them out. Maybe individual topics that we couldn't get to, rather than just saving them for another week, just putting them out by themselves. I'd still put the actual corrections into the main app because I think corrections should go in the same format as the original error. But just correspondence is where we're just chewing the fat and just thinking about
one
topics.
where we have two tangents like we did in the video that we posted.
Definitely, yeah. So what are your thoughts, folks? Would that be annoying? Let me know. Or do you like extra content just sort of dribbling in bits and pieces like that?
Yeah, also let us know if you want notifications turned off for those videos on YouTube particularly. That's very helpful for us.
Yes, do let us know. Okay, some more correspondence. On the targeting of Gulf countries, Ava says, the reason Iran is targeting the Gulf countries is because the missiles used are completely different. The type of missiles Iran uses against Israel are bigger and more expensive. They require big launch trucks, which are easier to spot, identify, and destroy, compared to the short-range missiles they use against the Gulf that are smaller and cheaper. They can be moved and fired more easily, and the launch vehicles are much easier to hide, so the missiles used against Israel and the Gulf countries are completely different. So it's not a decision of either or, but rather yes, both. You can do both Israel and the Gulf countries. Look, I'm not saying that that's the reason why they're targeting the Gulf countries. I'm sure there's a strategy, and we've spoken in both war episodes about the strategy, but I'm sure that's a fringe benefit. And I think it's worth mentioning because we didn't mention that. Also, Avis, Iran have way more of those shorter range missiles as well. They've got about 7,000 of them, at least at the start of the war, compared to the 2,000 of the longer range ones. So they get a lot more bang for their buck out of the short range ones to the Gulf as well. Is it a war? Correspondence from MCO. I love how they're trying to avoid saying war, but they love to claim Trump stopped 8 wars, none of which had the countries involved declaring war. That's a great observation.
That is good.
To quote John Oliver, we got him!
We got it!
I'm putting a link in the homework. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, please go to the homework in the blurb and have a look at that clip, because it's my favorite John Oliver joke ever. I love this John Oliver joke. It's a 3-part joke. It's like a running gag, the we got him gag. It's very good. Anyway, we got him. Aussie Titan on the school bombing. I thought I'd pass on some insight regarding the missile strike on the school in Iran from the retired veteran Chris Goldsmith, 85, a former US Army sergeant who was a forward spotter. His role was to identify targets and radio precise coordinates to either attack aviation or close air support or more traditional artillery like cannons and mortars. He points out war isn't a video game, and many people mistakenly believe that with today's technology, once a target's identified, it's easy to launch a pinpoint strike.
It's not a video game?
Apparently not.
The White House's Instagram reels have totally misled me.
Tell the White House that, yeah. While this is usually the case, there's multiple points of error that could occur. He could radio coordinates for fire direction control who relays the information to artillery units or aircraft. There could be communication or equipment errors. The slight damage to a fin of a missile can also send it off course. Additionally, countries like Iran have defense systems which don't always destroy the missile but knock it off course. Sometimes it takes out the missile's engine, but the warhead remains intact, causing it to miss the intended target. Those defensive missiles can also miss the target, causing them to turn around, striking the ground. He believes that these are more likely scenarios than a deliberate strike on the school. I'd add that the same argument could plausibly apply to the Iranian missiles hitting civilian targets in Israel. Absolutely. Although I think no one's expecting US military to be perfect, Aussie Titan. Assuming it wasn't an intentional targeting, which I don't believe it is, I think the critiques are for getting in a war of choice in the first place. That leads to these kinds of inevitable accidents, like we talked about in the pod. Also, their refusal to take responsibility for their screw-up. I think a lot of people are down on that.
Yeah.
When in the course had another view, calling the bombing of a school terrorism or an atrocity are not objective statements. The attack may well have been proportional, he says. The school was directly adjacent to IRGC barracks and a naval base. We do not know the particular details of why the strike occurred, but it is entirely possible that sufficient precautions were taken relative to the protection of civilians and the destruction of the target. Regarding general criticism, the destabilisation and weakening of a despotic government that has killed tens of thousands of protesters that sponsor terrorism and that supplies the genocidal Russian regime is actually an apt, sufficient and proper goal in and of itself. When the course, I agree that weakening the regime is a reasonable goal in itself, but are there not better ways to do that? At the very least, why would you kill all the leadership? I can't see how that isn't a huge roll of the dice. I mean, hey, it might work out for the best, but it might not. And you might have just rejuvenated the regime and made them more hardcore as well. I think that constantly changing goals are a huge issue as well. Decide on your strategy, set what your goals are, publicise them, make your case in public, and then execute them. That's how it should work in a well-run democracy, and it used to work that way, and now it doesn't. That's all I'm saying.
I think you're limiting creativity with that kind of thing.
Look, you're right. I should let their freak flag fly, those government guys. Who knows what they're capable of? Well, that's part of the problem. What often happens as well, for mine, is Trump will do 20 crazy things. And people then say, yeah, but those 5 things, the 5 of those things would be perfectly reasonable things to do if he was trying to do X, Y, and Z. And you go, yeah, you're right. But see, to me, and I've seen someone else say this, and I think I'll write this, and I think it's a good point which should be made more. It's not taking Trump seriously or literally like they used to argue about. It's now taking him hypothetically. He hypothetically maybe wants to do X, Y, and Z. So those 5 things out of the 20 that he did are great. If we ignore those 15 other things and assume he wanted to do X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Like people make the
We're
argument
so
for
beyond
him.
the listening to
We never just
stage that we just mind read.
Yeah, we try and mind read because what he appears on the surface to be doing is just ridiculous, and he sounds like a moron. And you go, well, that can't
So we
be
don't
the
even
case.
do that anymore.
That can't be the
Whoa.
case. He must mean this, and he's probably thinking this, and behind the scenes, he's probably doing that. And those things are very intelligent, and those things will actually work out quite well. Maybe that's right, but to me, it feels like it's grading on a curve. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of having to patronize the president. Like, why can't he just do better? You know, no one ever did that for Obama. No one ever did that. Certainly no one did for Biden, right? No one's going, well, he seems decrepit and old and senile, but actually, maybe when he says that, he's trying to do this. And like, yeah, look, let's just say what you mean and let's interpret what he says. Yeah, anyway, another critical take from JS. Dave should never be allowed to comment on geopolitics again. Well, that's critical. After providing that horrid musing about Iran's right to have nukes because it's not fair that other countries do. No one familiar with Iran's nuclear aspirations ever consider them having one. Also, it's completely missing the point to comment about their ability to hit America when all the Iranian regime ever talks about is glassing Israel, a target they are clearly able to hit. I think that's an unfair characterization of Dave's point, I have to say, JS. He wasn't saying that they should have nukes because other countries do. He was saying that there is no logic to which countries have nukes and other countries don't. That's what he was saying. You could think that's a rubbish point. Fair enough. No, everyone has their own views. I think he's just trying to explain the mindset of Iran there rather than saying what he thinks is fair or not fair or what should be the case. I do think you make a fair point that the real threat here is Iran using a nuclear weapon against Israel. That's clearly what they want to do. I agree. But I think the concern is that America never says we're going into a fight to protect Israel. They say we're fighting a war to protect ourselves against an imminent threat. If they want to protect Israel, they should say that. They should not lie to the public. If they want to launch a defensive war of Israel, if they think there's an imminent threat for Israel, an ally, okay, make the case. Convince Congress to vote for this war like you're meant to. Like, it's all the shortcuts that just give me the heebie-jeebies. Also, if what they're trying to do is make sure Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon, they're not going about it the right way with this war because I would say the chances of Iran getting a nuclear weapon just went up with the guy who's in charge now. Maybe not tomorrow, but in 5 years, 3 years, whatever. I think the last attack last year was a lot closer to the mark in that respect, I would have thought. Trying to reduce the chances of a nuclear weapon. Now, I mean, I at the time I had issues with that as well, but I think this attack is going to make Iran more hardline. I just think it is. I might be wrong, but a bit more honesty and a bit more directness and a bit more strategizing I think would be nice if all they're trying to do is protect Israel, I would say. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah.
A point we haven't made, I think is worth making from Lara. It needs to be emphasised, for many Iranians that are against the regime, their solution to changing the system is not at the hands of US and Israeli bombs. I dislike the dichotomy put forward by the media that either Iranians are staunch fans of the regime or they're celebrating being bombed. One of my friends is Iranian, with the family still in the country, and while they vehemently oppose the regime, they want to change it from within on their own terms, as is their right, and the right afforded to Western nations. As you discussed before, the protest movements had more room to challenge the regime when there wasn't a looming threat from US or Israel. That's what social progress looks like. Who's to say that given room to breathe after several generations, Iran's supreme leader was no more a figurehead than the UK's monarchy? The UK was allowed to slowly take power away from their monarchy over time. The US had their own revolution. The US had slavery at one point. Would the abolishment of slavery have happened if the country became preoccupied with a larger imperial force invading them? Perhaps not. As it stands, this war will not lead to a stable new government. It will lead to a fractured and sectarian bloodbath that tears apart the country. I question if that's not the real goal here, she says cynically. I doubt that's the goal. But I do agree that one of the tragedies of this war is that Iran was reaching a genuine transition point with the Ayatollah about to die. We didn't know it was about to happen. Might have been just the same thing. Might have been. We don't know. Iran was under the pump. There were protests. Who knows what was going to happen? What's happened is America has robbed Iran of that coming transition point that was only years away, a couple of years away maybe. And they've imposed a new violent transition point upon Iran that, in my view, is so much less likely to end up in positive change than the natural transition point might have. We'll never know. We'll never know. Maybe this would be better than the alternative. I don't know. It feels like that while it might seem like Iran never stood a chance of working its way out of oppression, that they had a better chance then than now. That's what it feels like to me. I don't know. I just think this war is not helping, is what I would say.
Yeah. That's an understatement.
Yeah. Okay, now look, I've got a bunch more here. Along the lines of what we just said before about the correspondence bits, I'm going to record these now.
Good idea.
And we are going to roll with this. This is the end of this PEP.
Yep.
And if people want it, we'll load up the other ones in a couple of days, shall we?
Cool. Let's do it.
And if they don't, we won't. Pretty simple. So for now, I will see you guys next week. We've pretty much caught up, which is nice. For another PEP, and maybe you'll see the rest of these correspondences in a couple of days. Otherwise, stay happy.